Call this and call this meeting to order.
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody seen the agenda? Is there any corrections, changes, or comments? The agenda will be approved as written. Any conflicts of interest? I guess I should ask you. We'll move on to reading of the minutes.
March 4th, 2025, the Board of Supervisors met at 9 a.m. with Dave Mulbauer, Chair presiding. Members present were Schultz, Dozark, Mulbauer, and Hayden. Member absent Ross. Minutes of the previous meeting were read and approved. Iowa State Representative Steve Holt joined the board via phone with some legislative updates. The board approved a change of wage for Damon Crampton, construction employee 2, and Troy Rosberg, maintenance employee 1, engineer's office. The board approved the resignation of Lynn Newley, finance manager, public health. A motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Hayden, to approve the agreements to purchase maintenance gravel from Stratford Gravel, Inc., 30,000 ton from the Sparks Pit near Dedham for $8.10 a ton, and 70,000 ton from Kate's Pit near Sac City with 10% crushed limestone for $8.56 a ton. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Dozark, seconded by Hayden, to approve the purchase of the Mack Pinnacle semi-tractor from Housby Mack Truck Sales for $157,265. Motion passed unanimously. The motion was made by Hayden, seconded by Schultz, to approve the purchase of the Trail King TKBD 22433 bottom dump trailer from Ziegler for $70,910. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Dozark, to approve the contract bond and certificate of insurance for project BRS 7927 bridge replacement project, County Road M55 on the East Booyer River with AM Coron and Son Inc. in the amount of $1,418,013.99. Motion passed unanimously. Shane McIntyre of Next Link spoke to the board about renting some of the Dow City Tower. No action was taken at this time. A motion was made by Hayden, seconded by Dozark, to approve the tax abatement at 2282 Yellow Smoke Road, Denison, Larry Herrig, new triplex. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Dozark, to appoint Madison Jacobson as zoning administrator. Motion passed unanimously. Motion was made by Hayden, seconded by Dozark, to approve the following resolution. 2025-14, resolution establishing special revenue fund number 0049, the contract law enforcement. Voting aye, Schultz, Dozark, Mulbauer, and Hayden. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Dozark, to approve the following resolution, 2025-15. Resolution establishing revenue fund, special revenue fund, 0048, prosecution costs. Voting aye, Schultz, Dozark, Mulbauer, and Hayden. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Dozark, seconded by Hayden, to approve Crawford County Health and Safety Council training at the courthouse. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Dozark, seconded by Hayden, to approve the proposal for trial IT support services from Crawford or for Crawford County Courthouse Network from ACS. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Hayden, seconded by Dozark, to amend the time of the public hearing proposed property tax to 8:30 a.m. Motion passed unanimously. During citizen input, Jim Gahn addressed the board about receiving a letter from the city of Denison about sidewalk repair needed at 15 South 12th lot. On motion, duly second, board adjourned at 11:11 a.m. Agendas for the next meeting are posted available to courthouse on Friday, 4:30 p.m. for city next meeting.
Do you have any comments or corrections to the reading of the minutes? Hearing none, then reading of the minutes are approved after it. Oh. Move on to supervisor reports. Kyle.
Met with the conservation board last Thursday night, must be Wednesday. Pretty short meeting, Chris will take care of most of all that report when he comes in and gives his, director's update here. And other than that, just a lot of, talk amongst ourselves with the new proposed property tax cuts that the state legislators are talking about.
When you talk to Representative Holden, Senator Schultz today, where's it, out of committee? Or do you know where it's?
No, I don't. Don't think it's got a committee yet. It's still, they're gonna give it a couple of weeks to at least listen to the public and us, information on us. Supervisors and such, just hear feedback from before it come out for debate on the floor, but it sounded to me, so. That's how I took it. Ty's probably, you know, you're at that legislative coffee every day, so you probably have a better handle on it than I do. So.
Well, I asked more questions. I don't know if I got a better handle on it. Yeah, I don't know. If you want me to add something, yeah. When I was talking to him, it sounds like they're gonna take away the rollback.
What?
102, 105, 103, 106 thing. It sounds like that's gonna come up. And it sounds like our cap, 3.5, 3.95, sounds like that's coming up. It's going away. But they're gonna have a revenue cap. So supposedly that'll simplify things. Don't know where the revenue cap will be, how it's established, what it'll, you know, you didn't really give any clarification on that, just said that that's what they'll be, as a revenue cap. I don't know that he could give me any more explanation, because he kept referring to Senator Dawson, who's the brainchild.
Who were you talking to?
Jason.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think
I mean, I
if
thought
we
I
can
said,
corner Senator Dawson this week, it'd probably be a good idea.
I mean, if you read the, I guess, legislative updates that ISAC sends out, I thought they did a pretty decent job in trying to explain how that process works that, you know, I sent out and said, can anybody understand what this is? And, they I thought they did a pretty good job explaining it.
I'm sure that'll be, probably one of the.
Did they have a revenue cap thing? Where is that coming from? How?
Guess I'd have to go back in and read it. But I mean, it's, and new construction is not part of that
Yeah.
also.
Yeah, well, that's right.
And I don't know how long new is new construction. Is it just 1 year? Is it the first year? Is it
That's a good question.
other years?
I didn't even ask that.
That's a good point.
You
And
know, because sometimes new construction's a 3-year, 4-year event, you know, depending. Hell, just to build my shop over there seemed like it was a year and a half. You know, that I was on a, you know, construction note
Is that-
as opposed to
Is
a,
that the first year it comes off after a 5-year tax abatement?
right, right. When?
Yeah.
once your abatement begins, and then you go, yeah, because then you got, yeah, good question.
First year it's taxed at 100% or, yeah. I know Jason was in favor of getting wind turbines taxed, look that cap at 30%.
Yeah.
He said they should be taxed at a commercial property.
Well, remember how they were talking about it would be charged on the revenue if we went with the different way back when they were offering a different plan?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I said, so, and then I asked that, well, I said, well, what would be if now they're kicking out these generators that are almost giving double the output of your original 35% cap? If they're doing that, why shouldn't we go up to a 45 or a 50 now on the ones that can do that? I mean, why shouldn't we actually already be raising that 35% cap? See what I mean? If they're putting out more output. I mean, if you
Yeah,
build
that's
a
never gonna
fancier
direct.
house, you gotta pay more property tax. Why shouldn't they be?
That's been an issue for a long time.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the things that when you're in a small county like we are, any construction matters, and why should Warren Buffett get a free ride? I'm just using it for instance, because everybody
Right,
else does. I don't know how much Amy does.
Mid-American carries a pretty big stick in the morning. Mid-American carries a pretty big stick down in the
Well,
morning.
it's just like the railroads, how I keep fighting them on trucking issues, you know?
Steve Holt just texted, we're not making, he's in caucus this morning,
I
so.
figured as much. They sound like they were gonna have a pretty busy week. I don't know. I mean, I'm a little perplexed yet. I think it'd be neat to see what we learn this week.
Yeah, I bet we'll have a lot of discussion on this.
I think so too.
I mean, because if you remember, how was Summit, you know, when Summit, when the pipelines would say how much revenue they're gonna generate for every county, what did they base that on?
If that's the same question we were asking when they were telling us. We don't know. I mean, that's the thing is it's just like the wind turbines. They said, well, you can't adjust it after they're up because there's nobody'd be willing to buy it. Isn't that what isn't that how the comment was made? So there's no way to base its value, you know, whether it would have its valuation. There'd be no increase, you know.
Cause sometimes it makes you wonder if maybe they should do it like they tax farm ground and do it on profitability. Revenue, how much it generates.
Right.
We were worried about it.
But like the pipeline, for instance, the revenue it would generate would have to be off federal tax credit for getting rid of the CO2,
Right,
right?
that's what
The
how
companies-
how I would generate that revenue.
But if those tax credits would go away, it wouldn't be profitable at all.
No. That's why if you're against the pipeline, you should be lobbying your state senators and legislatures and the president. Go and get away from those 45Q tax credits. If they go away, all the pipelines go away.
All the turbines go away. You take away their tax credits.
I mean, Trump has said he's in favor of putting everybody on a level playing field. We'll see what happens, but let people compete. Best man win.
Probably won't be us.
Got everything?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Great.
I don't have anything. I'll leave. I'll take my time and give it to Ty.
Thank you.
Gene, how did it go on the radio?
It was good. Louise had a lot to say.
What did you have at the radio?
It was, Mick wanted to update on the veterans moving into their new building, kind of an update on how we're doing with the new building.
So you guys were live?
We were live with the propane tank.
Propane tank.
Yeah, so it was good. Yeah, real good. Louise does a fabulous job. So, yeah, we'll have another opportunity. They're gonna do a Facebook Live and kind of walk through the building with people at some point tonight. So
Mick probably doesn't have to squeeze her to get information of her.
it's all good. It was all good. So, yeah, so she asked me if I'd go out there with her and I said, sure. And so I knew I'd be a little bit late. I did call the
Yep.
chairperson.
No, I appreciate the call.
Yeah,
Thanks for getting that all moved in. I was
Yeah.
kind of sad that I missed that one.
it was really good.
It was a good turnout.
It was a good turnout. Yeah, it was really nice. Louise is so proud and the telehealth area is gonna be something that she's gonna talk a little bit more about with propane tank to let everybody know that that's available for them. So she's very happy down there. She's.
And I think from the veteran standpoint, they like the fact, I think that you can drive right up to the door,
Right,
basically.
yep, yep.
Instead of the walk you have to get to this courthouse,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Need to get something installed.
Yeah, we do have to work on, the parking. We have to get, and I've talked to the city about getting our handicap parking spots, you know, both on the, top part and then down by the veterans and make sure that we can use that space. There's some families that are parking there every day and night, and so we need to make sure that they're not
It
parked
was
there
empty
overnight.
this morning.
It was empty this morning,
Yeah.
okay.
I stopped to see Louise.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but, things are moving. What we need to do next is make sure that floor in the basement is clean because, part of Stone's bid was to put those tables and chairs together down in that space. So once that floor is clean, we'll get the tables and chairs set up, be able to start using that space also. Getting the windows, we're gonna have the same, things that are windows out. We're just gonna kind of have some advertisings for the eye smiles and different things, just to kind of dress it up from the inside and outside. Probably gonna put some, blinds on there for the glare on those, TV cameras, so that's a nice place for, Zoom meetings and things like that. So it's moving along. Karen and, Kim went in and painted that, space that's gonna be the, employee lounge. They just didn't like that paneling, so they had plenty of paint, so they decided on the weekend to go in there and paint that the colors that they liked. It looks very, very nice in there, so moving right along. The only thing we have to do is glue the little carpets, some of them with the deep cleaning kind of lifted up, so we have to put some adhesive and goes back down. But I think they've got the storage room, they're starting to get that cleared out, so we can stop paying the rent down there, so things are moving along. Now that this weather's agreeing with us, things are moving a
Right.
little bit faster, so.
What a change from last week.
Yeah, well, and that's gonna change again, so
Iowa.
get used to it. Don't be
Right.
used to it.
Let's see what Friday brings.
I know, we're concerned about the St. Patrick's Day parade with all that we've got lined
Right,
up
in
for that.
Minneapolis on
so.
Saturday.
I've seen that they were moving like the music up into the old fashioned and
Well,
stuff like
there's
that.
some changes going
That's pretty fun.
Saturday.
I don't have to see, Irish people don't have reason to celebrate.
It's the house in the end.
They
They'll
don't.
figure it- they'll
They're
figure
not
it
even
out.
Irish.
Is that everything?
That's it,
Tie.
that I can think of.
Well, I had a busy week.
Yeah, we want to hear about it.
Yeah, we want to hear about it.
I brought back some different handouts that they got. I mean, I go through all that stuff and Gina was just looking for, I got one here, something for public health.
Oh,
On the, you know, what national support is for public health and stuff like that, so.
How many days were you there, Ty?
Well, I got there on Friday afternoon and I kind of get ready, iron my clothes from the airline right out there, so everything's ready, so I don't have to mess with it during the week, but then I left Wednesday morning. Well, actually, I moved my flight back to Wednesday afternoon so that, I could miss the storm, and it worked out perfect. And I don't think I had any crust from drifting until I got by Annie Crow's. All the way up from Omaha, so I mean, good job on the roads, people. I already stopped Tony yesterday. So good job for getting me home the other day. I appreciate that.
Omaha didn't get near the snow.
No, they didn't. They did. So it was nice. There's still actually a lot of snow work going on there on the airport though. I mean, they had the big trucks out moving snow. So it went good. I mean, they fill a fair amount of stuff, and then Tuesday's our day up on the hill. And ISAC, I just stayed with them because we did our ag committee, since the farm bill is like, nobody's talking about it out there. You know, I did bring you a farm sticker up there, hey, fuck, no farms, no food.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Anyway, since there's no real discussion of the farm bill, and even when you talk to Grassley or Ernst, we're just kind of look around you. We're kind of busy with a lot of other stuff right now. So I get it. I said, but it wouldn't be me if I didn't ask about the farm bill, so. I don't know, I think that Tuesday went pretty well. We met with all four of the House members and then both the senators and then their staffers and stuff. And got a few things discussed. I'll go over that too if you'd like, but, on the ag committee, that's kind of Saturday's our ag steering committee. Pretty much the whole day is consumed by that. Some seminars that are some speakers come in and talk about different things. We were inundated with SNAP discussion. And, I don't know, nothing. There was really nothing because they're not working on the farm bill. So everything they talked about was just hypotheticals, you know, I mean, this is what we're looking for is, you know, on funding for different things, but it's just different programs for basically the cities and, school kids. I mean, now there was some that were talking about some stuff there, and some possible, some hope for more school stuff, I guess. That was what it sounded like to me. Farm Bureau guy actually spoke to us and he just talked about the Farm Bill and what their priorities are from Farm Bureau, you know, as far as the new farmer programs and then the insurance, you know, the safety nets, if you want to call them that, you know, making sure that those things are. I was getting a sense that, you know, this is a growing concern or a growing want to split farm issues from SNAP. And I'm kind of tossed on that. You know, right now would be an easy time to say that since the people that tend to support the farm side have a larger voice, you know,
I don't wanna say that the Democrats don't, because I talk to a lot of Democrats that are just as worried about it from even California, which we always think of them as Los Angeles and San Francisco. So I mean, I don't like to say that, but I'm gonna say the urban people, you know, because they worry more about SNAP than they do farm. They just think it shows up in the back room of the grocery store and we're good, right? So, but so there was some talk about that, and Farm Bureau says we are looking at that, but I don't know that they were sure that they wanted to support that, because you lose so many votes. If the House and Senate would change back in the midterms, you know, you could have trouble then, you know, because the rural we'd lose our voice again, I guess. At least it'd be weak, and so I don't know how I feel about that. I do think that it probably needs to find a little bit of balance in the bill. We throw a lot of money at them programs, and I think back when I was a kid, remember when we used to get the cheese programs and all that stuff? I kind of wonder, that helped the dairy farmer out quite immensely, you know, how they throw cheese at constantly because they had more than they could give away, you know? So, I mean, I kind of wonder if that's why it got thrown in the farm bill, plus it also gave them, you know, urban support. And, I don't know where that's gonna go, but there was people talking about it, so, I mean, if there's talk, if there's whispers, there's interest, I guess you could say. I don't know how serious it is, but just something to watch.
Did they talk about any parts of the farm bill as far as equip programs, CSP programs?
You know, we really never got into program specifics, other than like when they were talking about the, what's equip?
Equip is, there's a lot of different things under equip as far as cover crops,
Oh, I see.
fencing.
Yeah, you know, they did talk about that a little bit, and I think that the overall, the bigger concern was, are they gonna continue it? You know, right now, that was part of the problem in the farm bill. Now they went back from having some direction they were going to, now they're not real sure where they're going again, what will make it. But, you know, then when I talked to some people in the administrative meetings, you know, from the Department of USDA, they sound like Trump's wanting to improve farm ag support. Now, I don't know what the hell that meant either, so I mean,
We said we're gonna have fun.
yeah, okay. We're having fun, all right.
We said we're gonna have fun.
So I don't know really, Dave, you know, and we weren't getting a lot of good answers, because I just think it's the uncertainty. I mean, that was what I was, let me go down here, should be. Okay, then here was our big discussion. The solar and, primarily the use of solar or land being commandeered for other uses other than agriculture in particular are good. As we were getting ready to land at the airport there at Reagan, I looked out the window and we were probably, I'm gonna guess, you know, using my old paratrooper eyes, I'm gonna say we were at about 15,000 feet. And, I'm gonna tell you something. There was a solar field underneath us that was huge. It was tremendously large. At first, I'm trying to figure out what the heck it is, but I think that's a solar field. And it was. And, it looked like it was in a prime valley out there in Virginia. You know, so I was a little bit, no, I don't think we really want that in Iowa, do we? I mean, that was one of the discussions. So I said that to lead up to this. Should we evaluate the ground's viability, you know, its crop potential or, you know, production potential, and say these lands are off limits because of their production ability, and these lands are available for solar farms?
I have mixed feelings about that.
Yeah.
I mean, here's where I hate to see prime farm ground taken up for something else like that use. But on the other hand, I hate to see government dictate what
What you
a
can,
private owner can do on their own ground.
that was brought up. I figured your first comment would be, well, I don't want them taking my good cow ground either.
Well, that's good. But you know, I hate to.
But
see
yeah, that was
it
actually brought up.
infringe on your own property
And
rights.
it was one of our California constituents that was screaming that the loudest. The guy's on there that's from California. He said, he went into it right away about, you know what? Nobody should be telling me where I can put what on my ground. He says, I am not pro solar at all. He says, I think you should be planting crop where crops go. He says, we got a world to feed, and that's one of our priority in life, as far as American farmer, is to feed the world. And, to take away our good farm ground, he says, I'm against it, but I also am against telling somebody what they can do at their farm, because and he brought it up, just like, well, this guy's after my attention. He says, there's a document over in the archives that says we shouldn't be doing them kind of things, so yeah, there you go. Anyway, so that was a part of the discussion. I mean, on one hand, I thought, it sounds, maybe that's where they should be tracking, to go after that ground if they're wanting to build them. But do they want it on the hilltops? And they're not gonna put it on the north side of the hill. I wouldn't guess, So I don't know what you got there. So that was one of the things they were talking about, though. They've been talking about like where urban sprawl, that was a good point. I wrote down the better talking points. The urban sprawl that we're dealing with, in particular around the Des Moines and, Cedar Rapids and stuff like that, and everybody's got them in every state. The Farm Bureau guy made the comment, he says, 1/4 acre lots stop urban sprawl, not 5 acre. So basically the suburbs versus the exurbs, the exurbs are where the doctor goes out and buys an acreage because his kid wants a pony. And that creates more urban sprawl, because the people with money are buying more of them, and don't take as many 5 acre lots. It takes more 5 acre lots to fill the need than it would be 1/4 lots. So that was one of the things he was talking about. When you're selling off your farm ground, maybe you sell somebody 1/4 acre instead of 5 acres, I don't know. That was, I don't know how
It's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
Break it down smaller would actually slow it down.
yeah, that's what he said.
When money talks.
Then that's what I'm saying. It still goes back to what you were talking about with the solar. It's my land. If I want to sell 5 acre lots of it, shouldn't I be able to?
Should be.
So anyway, it was good discussion, or it was great talking points, and then we had pretty good discussion with him afterwards about those kind of things. And basically what you just said here was what got said.
Who was with you from Iowa?
Well, Carl goes, and he's on the ag committee with me. Barry, the hell's he on? Cause he bounces around. He stays pretty darn busy. Now he's on rural action with Carl and I, and Craig's on that. Basically, and then they brought a third supervisor. Older fellow, can't remember his name, from up at Sioux County. But, there's 3 from Sioux County, and then, Latif is on the Health and Human Services. We had about 20 of us, maybe a couple more.
Good showing then.
Yeah, oh yeah, we're a vocal bunch. Iowa makes noise.
Richard Crouch.
Yeah, well, Richard don't make much noise.
When he speaks, it's,
Yeah, he's got something to say when he does speak. But he's usually pretty quiet. But he's thought, actually, I think he uses us as his pawns. He puts ideas in everybody's head. We do all the talk. He sits there.
He's got a roll.
Yeah, so anyway, the safety net is a priority for all for the ag committee, and then rural action caucus even talked about some of that stuff. Rural development that gets my attention right away. USDA is gonna still maintain a large role in rural development. And, our local communities, if we don't take care of these small communities, obviously, everybody's gonna live in Des Moines, so to speak. That ain't with their words, but that's mine. I think that they're wanting to continue different things, and we actually, I think just about everybody we talked to when we went on our ISAC trip up to the Capitol, and just about all these meetings that would get brought up by somebody, I brought it up probably 3 or 4 times, but direct funding to the counties on rural development things and stuff like that. Obviously, when you're gonna do an entire 4-lane program, that's gonna be a state deal, but I said, if you're wanting to help us develop our infrastructure in these smaller communities, you need to have some more direct line of funding. If we could apply for grants and make that a little easier to do. So we did that was actually talked about. And I will tell you that it appeared that they had interest in listening, either that or they're really getting to be good, maybe they're getting some action from Hollywood teaching them how to pretend they're interested, so. So that seemed like that was, pretty important to them, you know, I mean, the development and different things. I mean, I was talking about infrastructure, you know, like I said, that one of our problems, I bring up where I went out to the Summit USA and having, shovel-ready siting. I said, it's hard for us to afford that. And I also brought up about the reservoir. And I said, and I told them, I just flat out said, water's an issue. I don't think we gotta look past California to figure that out. I don't think we gotta look, and flood mitigation's vital. I don't think we gotta look past North Carolina for that. I think we just got our warning orders on what Mother Nature can do if she wants to do. So we've got to start finding ways to help better prepare. I mean, that one's a city. Now, North Carolina was rural, probably more rural than we are, obviously, but you know, that was the city that couldn't manage to take care of itself out in California. So I told them, I said, we're wanting to work on a reservoir project. We got 7 sites figured out in our county that would be good potential reservoirs, but we're wanting to use them for flood mitigation and we're wanting to use it for water. Can't say very much, but we may not be picking up a business that was interested in Crawford County because water supply. And they were very interested. So we're not done, but I'm just saying, so these things are important. And so that was when I was talking about rural infrastructure, that's what I was talking to them about, was those type of things, you know, that help us develop. And it's not a national issue, but when you consider what the governor's doing here in Iowa, where she's lowering taxes, trying to get property taxes down, we're gonna need more hands on deck to help pay property taxes to keep sustaining our services, whether it's the things here in the courthouse or our road systems or whatever it is. And I think that I got that point across pretty good, because I actually had one fellow come up to talk to me. He said, so who are you talking to about the reservoirs? Well, we're talking to a lot of people, but I mean, right now we're not in the new phases, because this is a project that's been going since 2001. He goes, oh my God. He says, you haven't been able to get any traction? I said, well, I think it lost traction when at first it wasn't getting a lot of support, because we were in pretty good times back then as far as water supplies. You know, everybody's crops were growing fine, but you know, it's more than just what's going on in your yard, how much grass you got to water your yard, or it's about supplying industry. It's about looking after us. I mean, what were we down? I'm not gonna, Rory, forgive me if I'm giving wrong numbers here, but like being down 16 foot on our flood, on our water supplies in our wells throughout, you know, up through the Boyer here. And last spring with them good waters we got, I mean, everybody knows that. I mean, our crops took off. Heck, my pasture did better than it's ever done, you know, I mean, so we did good there, and they went up about 5 feet, but by fall they were already back down 3. So that's a concern. You know, we're a long ways being to where we need to be. So those were the infrastructure things I was talking to them about. I said, if you got counties that are trying to prepare, and we're talking like an 800-acre lake, so that's gonna, by the time it gets full, which during a drought, it's gonna take a while. You know, we're not gonna get her full quick. But you do like California and you wait until you need the water.
We'll talk
Not
about
there.
the 2 extremes. Here, I'll tell you, in Spencer, they went from being flooded out.
Yeah.
To burned up.
To burned up. There you go. And would our
All
waters
within
be able
6
to,
months.
we'll be able to supply all that stuff? No, but we want to be able to keep our industry and our residents with drinking water and business water. I mean, so I think those things, as far as the water supply, but flood mitigation, yeah, you drop that down. If you got one that's upstream in the Boyer, you can drop that down over the winter or in the spring and basically capture, if you can capture 25,000 acres worth of water runoff, maybe you keep the Boyer from flooding out Tyson. Well, Tyson's not there anymore, but Smithfield and Tyson and all our low-lying grounds there. You know, obviously, the other thing is infrastructure for levees. You know, so a lot of this is USDA or US, you know, USDA or Army Corps of Engineer stuff. But, you know, we got to keep working on those things. You know, where's the money? Because we're trying to get rid of $36 trillion of debt too. So that's going to be a little challenge, but I think if you got a good project, you might get their attention. Anyway, disaster resilience, this kind of goes right along with what I was saying, you know, I mean, that was one of the other things they talked about in the ag, project along with that involved me here for the one. Rural capacity building, you know, rural water, safe and adequate water supplies. That actually came up later in the meeting after I'd already been talking about that, so. Monies to counties directly, workforce development, that's. Actually, you can grab some pamphlets on that stuff too, on helping develop your rural workforce. I think, you know, we've got our wheelhouse, but you know, they talked about things like career campus that we're building. You know, so we're kind of ahead of the curve a little bit, you know, and actually that was one of the other things that we talked about with the rural development was like our bridges and roadways and I think Paul's actually positioned us pretty well in Crawford County going into the future. And that actually got brought up again at the legislative thing. And I spoke up that Crawford County is better than a lot of the other counties in the state because of the things Paul's did the last 25 years with his crew. And we're in better shape, but some counties in the country just, I don't know if they ever even fix their bridges. I mean, just to listen to them talk, you know, I mean, I can't imagine they've got engineers that are doing nothing. But,
As we're
Yeah,
telling
but
you,
they might have other spending priorities.
well, new shops. I mean, you know, Paul built all our bridges before he worried about building a new shop. So thank you, Paul. We appreciate what you did there.
you talk about workforce development, I was really, really impressed with our tour down in Woodbine.
Were you?
We went to that meeting down there.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Oh, okay.
The school.
Their
school.
academy. I wonder if our career academy will be a little bit like that. I mean, I'm really excited to see what that ends up.
That's how it's envisioned, I believe.
I think they use that as.
I hope so.
I
Sounds
mean,
like,
that's hands-on,
Yeah.
working jobs, experience that.
well, it's back to the, you know, when I was in school, they had the VICA, which you went for auto body, you know, all the tech, you know, mechanics, all that, you know, the welders, you know, them kind of jobs that really we need more of those than we do the graduate school degrees. I mean, we need everything.
We did that in ag class.
Yeah, yeah. There you go.
And the fact
Did
that
all
they're
that.
building homes in Woodbine to turn around and sell and improve
Right.
the,
Yeah.
you know, their housing needs.
Boat did that for a while too. In fact, my mother-in-law bought a house that the school had remodeled. So I mean, them are good programs. Like, you know, I mean, it teaches them kids a skill and even if they, you know, don't go into that, it's the potential to draw into that's a lot better, you know, I mean. But,
When I was in Western Iowa Tech Carpentry School, we built Steve Oatman's house
Yeah.
where Steve Oatman lives today.
Yeah.
And we built the conservation house
oh, is
out
that
at Yellowstone Park.
I think there's one on Donna Reed Road that was built by the
Hey,
school that was moved out.
speaking of conservation, the garden club, Natalie's part of that. They all had their meeting last night out there at, Kelly was there and gave them classes on bees and the pollinators and stuff like that. And they just loved it. So they said, God, she's just amazing. So
Kelly does a good
there you
job.
go. Bet she does. Yeah. Broadband was brought up. Sounds like, you know, the western, more rural areas than what we even are still struggling with the broadband issues. So.
Well, I'm sure there's probably some parts that still got the party line.
Yeah. Fun, Randy Diggy too.
But yeah, with internet and communications like that, did they say anything about what we were talking about with database centers and?
Yeah, well, really, that never got brought up in any of my meetings, the data. I mean, we talked about some of that when we were talking about the ground being used, like for solar and stuff, the data centers got brought up, but nobody really talked a lot about that. But they said there's gonna be a surge in that because of AI. And that's stuff we already knew.
Which AI takes a lot more electricity.
Oh, yeah. Now, we did talk about electricity. And I was really trying to dig into the validity of like natural gas, so, you know, natural gas power stations. And I can't remember what they called them. They did talk about the guy that's developed the power system that actually uses the spent nuclear rods to generate electricity again in a different format. I don't know. Got over my head a little bit, but they did talk about that a little bit, I see. I mean, and there was none of the experts on that, so I think they were probably just going off of what they heard, because they really couldn't answer many questions either. technical assistance on stuff out here, you know. Preserving farm country, the American Farmland Trust. Heck was that about? They talked about protecting the farms, obviously, it's the American Farmland Trust. I don't know if I got that literature from that. That's an organization that's about protecting farmland, obviously, from the solars and stuff like that. And not stopping it, but trying to make sure that everybody's up on it, you know, like, remember when we talked about when it was coming in the county and they wanted like a 50-acre chunk, but probably were only gonna use 5, and the 5 is all you were gonna get paid that great big whopping $1,600 or 16,000 a year acre.
Yeah.
And then the rest, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
16, whatever the hell it was. Anyway, that was some of the stuff this American Farm Trust guy got up and talked. He only talked for about 10 minutes, but, keeping farmers on the farm, basically they've always tried to be, instead of a bunch of absentee loaners. I seen we got some ground down there south of.
Jeff's farm, yeah.
Yeah, the Jess Farm, there you go, where they're trying to, even as they're advertising like if you're an outside investor coming in and stuff, you know, I mean, instead of trying to keep. It's a sealed bid thing, I mean, anybody can buy it, it's your ground, you can sell it however you want, but. You know, you get more of these absentee people, I mean, what, their concerns for the local communities like isn't the same as what ours is, you know what I'm saying? So that was what this American Farmland Trust was about. Sound farming practices, you know, growth, cover crops and everything. Here was a neat number. How many acres a day you think are lost? Farmland every day of the year. 2,000.
2 urban sprawl and
Yep.
similar or whatever.
Whatever. Just 2,000 acres every day are lost on farm ground.
That adds up.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's kind of scary.
700,000 a year.
I mean, that was what this guy said. I have no facts to back that up. That's scary.
Every day, every year they find 1 million more corn acres.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, there's.
One time we're gonna start right back.
I got like, here's the public health. Medicaid and counties, I grabbed that one because we're always talking about that with our jails or public or our juvenile detention.
Which we do have Holmes and Murphy on later.
Do we?
Yeah.
It's on your agenda.
It is, take action.
Let's see, regulation of codes and fees in the county, protecting bonds and building equipment, land use zoning and infrastructure, community planning, county government taxes and revenues, and I think that was by the edge, put that out. Here's maps. This was kind of interesting. Craig, you like to weed through our arbitrary stuff and learn. So I grabbed that one for you, different.
That's a compliment.
It is a compliment. I brought that back for you. Should show that I was thinking of you, right?
That's what I got.
Revitalizing communities through redevelopment, different things like that, you know, that's one of the things they talked about at RAC. Don't forget your dilapidated stuff to find ways to either improve it or remove it. I think that was how they did that. And then give space for somebody else to do something. I don't know, there's a bipartisan infrastructure bill was or law. In fact, examining investment in county infrastructure, there's just little things in here that are kind of interesting. I just brought them back for you guys to fumble through. I
Thank
mean,
you.
I had, the day up on the hill, we basically discussed most of the things I just talked about there, plus other things, you know, as far as, you know, nothing really got brought up. Medicaid and Medicare were talked about because that was some of the stuff, but with what was going on Tuesday night last week, there was not a lot. Everybody's mind was on the speech coming up and all them protesters. I mean, that the Capitol was surrounded by blue and yellow flags. I mean, it was literally blocks deep. And I kind of reminded me of when I was in the Army in the early 80s, or when I was in the 82nd. We all went to the Cap up to Washington one day, and there was a protester come running across the street, and they were protesting nukes, and we were in our uniform. She stuck at my face right there. She goes, what do you think about nuclear weapons, sir? Would you care? And I said, well, ma'am, I'm kind of against them. She says, could you elaborate? I said, well, if they use them, it kind of puts me out of work. She looked dejected, but anyway, that's what that reminded me of, is all them protesters, which in those days, they were around the White House. And they could get up to that first line fence, you know, I mean, it wasn't way boxed back where the fence line was. But they did put up a second fence line around the Capitol that, you know, during the week. So I don't know, it was an interesting trip. You know, and I mean, obviously, I asked Senator Ernst's office if they needed someone to come sit in the gallery for them. I said, I could stand up, sure. Just to get in there to watch that once, but, they already had a guy that was there. I don't remember if one of the guys was talking to him. I think it might have been Craig somebody was talking to that guy that's actually sat there. He was in the office there he had to sit there all day waiting to get up. But, it was an interesting trip. I think there was some benefit to it, you know, I mean, as far as things we talked about, and both Senator Grassley and Senator Ernst were really kind of jotted down some notes when well, Senator Grassley didn't, but his staffer was writing down notes when we were talking about that county direct funding for infrastructure, things like that. And so I said, you know, I think through ARPA, we actually proved that counties do a pretty good job of spending your money. We're kind of feel kind of honored that you actually entrusted us with them kind of dollars, and we wanted to make sure we put them to good use for our county, and at least it seems like most of our rural counties did anyway. And we did. I thought we put it to good use, saving future tax revenue or tax asking.
While improving our communication system.
Yeah. Yeah, we did a lot of
Making
that.
it safer.
Yeah. So anyway, that's some of the things that we were working on. I mean, I could go on all day, but we're getting close. There he is.
I will say real quick before Paul starts, I had state early childhood of Iowa meeting. For you to know, Gene, there's gonna be some major changes. You know, there are gonna be 7 districts that are following the behavioral health model. I have some major concerns about that. We talked about that a little bit. The underlying core of ECI was to be locally representative and have smaller boards, smaller groups to decide where those discretionary funds would be spent and how to fit your needs. And now it's bigger, they're gonna take like 16 million away from the budget.
Yeah.
So you heard this. And it's gonna go to a statewide voluntary preschool, a continuum of care for the 4-year-olds, but it's kind of going down the same road as what mental health did. And I think, public health is gonna be on the
January
right line.
2026.
So,
Yeah, January 2026.
so more to come.
Oh, Paul, good morning.
Good morning, Paul.
Well, I got a few things on here. The Vale Bridge project, we did get all the contract documents approved, and so we can talk to the contractor and have probably do a early to mid-May start on the project is what we're kind of talking right now. So that's good. Get the planning done, you know, and once you get started in May, it's a good time to build a bridge. So less impact the farming community. The subgrade stabilization project that lets next week. So
What day?
see on Tuesday, the 18th. Yep. So we're anxious to see how those turn out. Bridge crew doing some, you know, just kind of fill in stuff right now. And as soon as the weather gets fit and they can get over there, they'll start working on the Vale Bridge again. So that should work out good. We should get that bridge done and then start on the pavement bridge, so that we're out of the way there.
Get out of their way.
Not that we're in their way, but it's just be more convenient for us to get in and out of our project to be able to cross that bridge. And then there's extra dirt on this bridge at Vale on the pavement that we'll use then to realign the road, and we'll do that where the gravel road meets the pavement there, because that kind of comes off that bridge and has a sharp angle there. So that's the little bit of right of way that Denny Hubbard was gonna donate actually about half an acre. So, you know, it was pretty good donation and so, you know, it should work out really well because they can just put the dirt right there and then we'll shape it up and create a road. The item 4 there, the temporary detour agreement, apparently the DOT found a culvert on the Highway 141 project that needs to be replaced. And they wanted to know if they could use E16 and L51 for a couple of days for a detour. It'd just be easier to just take it out, put it back in, close it down. So,
Where's the culvert at?
you know, I'm not even sure where it's at.
I think it's by weeds.
Well, I think,
I was talking,
It's somewhere between Charter Oak and you.
I think it was by
I
Randy.
can't believe they just found one.
Well,
My trail.
yeah, oh, here it is, It's just, yeah, it's just,
Oh, is it over
yeah,
here, this
yeah,
one?
they've got it. It's just west of Charter Oak.
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
I thought he was talking about over by weeds.
yeah, so it's right.
Oh, that's right.
You know where the water runs across? That's what I thought he was talking about.
right there.
So that's,
So-
I must be right up.
So, I mean, yeah, it's pretty minor deal, but I said, let's just go through the process, you know.
Oh, big detour.
So it's official,
After my feeling.
easy. But I hope you want all that semi-traffic through there. So this is just kind of making it official. I don't know for sure when they're gonna do that, but I think it's gonna be fairly soon.
I move we approve item 4.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
So I'll leave that signed, get it back to them. I just signed that up. If you guys want a copy of this, and see the action on it, Terry.
That'd be okay.
Yeah.
Just scan it up to
I'll
us
just get it
after
up.
you sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
The next item, the next item is this Crawford County Reservoir Commission 20 agreement. And, you know, we've talked about this. I think you guys are kind of familiar that, you know, between D and West Central Rural Water. And Ty's probably most knowledgeable about, you know, the agreement as far as the words.
Do you have it there?
I do have the agreement here.
George Basic was wanting to.
Yeah, and so
I
he.
talked to Collins.
He commented on it, and I talked to Colin this morning as well. Colin he'd like to visit with George before this is officially adopted. So that's why I kind of put it on here as a discussion, possibly approve. But I don't think we're there yet.
I put it on for next
Like
week.
next Tuesday,
And I talked to
and
Joe.
Joe was gonna come too. I thought.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and so, do you understand that this agreement basically is a 28-year agreement, and the intent here is to be able to apply for grant dollars to try to develop the project, you know, and to get some study, you know, to continue to try to forward. So, and everybody needs to be comfortable with it. And so that's kind of where we're at, is the back and forth with the legal counsels for DMU and in the county here.
I think the only holdup was DMU was wanting to make sure that if it got to where people were gonna try to force money out of them, they could back out, but no money can be taken from any of the entities without 100% approval of the committee, which is a person of each.
Which is your representative.
So you basically got veto power anyway.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. And I think that once they see that, and the lawyers talk it out, and everybody's comfortable, so they have a problem.
Paul,
So
this is
whenever-
new. This is something, I mean, this has been kind of worked on for a long.
Oh, yeah.
Long
for
time.
Several months. But,
2001.
well, oh, yeah, since the actual start of a discussion
Right.
about a reservoir.
So I thought it was,
a long time ago. Yeah, yeah. But, you know, we'll see, just have to wait till they get this work done, might be next week, right? But we'll, I'll continue to
Writing.
kind of,
West Central has their.
yeah, their meeting, yeah,
So that's where open.
well, when you get more together, just
sounds good.
bring it to us.
The snowstorm, I think the guys did a fantastic job. It was tough when you had a half inch of rain the day before, in some places more than that. And, you know, conditions were a little bit challenging for the guys, but, and we didn't start right away that morning because, as you guys know, I mean, it was not very nice.
The wind.
But the guys were able to get a lot done and yeah, did a good job, I think, keeping the roads clear.
I had no complaints from anyone.
Yeah, we only had a couple and they were very polite, just, wanting to know when. And we saw some really good grading opportunities.
Yeah, yeah.
It was brutal though. Yeah.
That little short stub on 59 down there where Dr. Wright lives.
I went down that way Thursday, boy, it needs it.
Yeah, because you'd gotten a call and I'd gotten a call and we were able to get it open and get them out, but that'd be a great grading project. And so,
It's like the state, maybe a few grading projects by Manila Golf Course.
Oh, yeah, that's always a bad area.
yeah, so, you know, I just, I kind of reflect back sometimes and you think, if you lived here 150 years ago, you had no knowledge of all the things that we have we have it right there in our hands all the time, 24/7. 1 week it's 15 below zero, then it's 50 degrees and sunny. Then it's cold, then it warms up, then it rains, then it's a blizzard, then it warms up to 70 degrees. All within about the period of 4 or 5 weeks.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, you'd wonder what the heck you got yourself into. So.
I think they're better forecasting weather then than they are now.
Was that the horse facing a certain direction?
Mark the calendar.
Monstro.
Yeah.
Woolly caterpillar told you
Mark the
Yeah.
calendar, March 27th, it will.
Yeah.
It's gonna rain.
That's what they're saying.
But anyhow, yeah.
Mark in my
So
calendar.
I'm anticipating this year March may come in and go out like a lion.
Actually, I got
Yeah.
Friday, I've got 90-day fog hitting this Friday.
And we're supposed
This
to,
Friday?
if you look, there's this
There's a
massive
prediction out there.
storm making
It's
its
been
way
out there.
here, wind and
There's your
possible
phone.
snow, so.
It'll be raining.
Larry Claver, if you're.
When is that?
Some pizzas Saturday, today.
Oh, it's today.
At lunch, yeah. So his last work day will be Friday, so
So where are you doing that down?
shopping Dow City.
Shopping.
Yep. So I'm just gonna get a bunch of pizza and take it down there. And so want them to come down. I think the guys are gonna kind of rally there about 11:30, 11:45. So I don't know if you guys will be done by then or not. Then we did hire Kyle Sigabart,
Keep it moving.
as the new motor grader operator of Dennis.
Perfect.
Gene Monters is gonna go down and
Like Larry's, right?
take letters. Yep.
Be good fit for me.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
Keep you on
Thanks for
schedule.
stopping by.
Okay. Yep. Floor's looking nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything parts out and
Improvement.
looking at the rest of it, so.
We are up to Holmes and Murphy, and I saw they're out at the hall.
Oh,
Let me go get
Yeah,
it.
grab it, would you please?
gonna jump in and change that.
Oh, hi,
Oh.
ready for you guys?
They were over in the audience.
Oh, yeah.
How are you all doing?
Good morning.
Down the
All
basement?
good.
That's that.
Yeah. That turned out real well.
Oh, perfect.
I need one, yeah.
Oh, perfect. It's a big shot.
I wrote this one.
I don't have that like
You
that.
don't have to take notes.
You don't have to take it. We didn't bring the lawyer, so it must be good news.
Yeah.
We sent an electronic copy, so I didn't know if she was gonna be broadcasting it up there. Amy,
Yeah.
so you're not?
No.
Okay, good. I did leave on a couple slides, that talk about high cost claimants, because I did in public record, things like that. So
Yeah.
if you're used to seeing things that you want to see again, we can always send those to you directly.
Yeah.
If you care, so.
Absolutely.
Alright. So, want me to start talking?
Yep, jump in.
All right,
Give
all
us-
right. So we're here today to talk about your guys' July 1st medical renewal. This is your first year with IGHCP, the Iowa Governmental Healthcare Plan. Really good news. I'm gonna walk through some experience that Crawford County had alone and kind of tell you what I think would have happened if we would have stayed the status quo last year and what the reality is since you joined IGHCP. And I kind of made a joke that Jeff's not here because we have good news to deliver, so it was a really good decision for Crawford County to join the trust from a financial standpoint. So this first page on page 3 here, we're looking at your medical claims experience with just Walmart. So you guys used to be self-funded, you guys paid an admin fee to Walmart, paid your own claims. Now we're partial self-funded. We still pay Walmart a lot of money, and we have partial self-funded side. So this page is specifically talking about what you paid Walmart and what they paid out. So pretty straightforward. We got your months on the left, number of employees, average members would be every belly button in the plan. Then we have cover charges. That's what flowed through the healthcare system. There's obviously a pretty big provider savings. That's the second column from the left. So Walmart has really good discounts in the state of Iowa. So those right off the bat, walk into a provider with the Walmart Blue Cross Blue Shield card, you probably get 40 to 50% off the bill. That's your provider savings. So cover charges minus provider savings and what the member pays leaves the county with their paid claims. So you can see from July 1st, when we joined the plan through the end of the year, we have claims through December on this page. We had paid claims of $889,441. You guys paid Walmart, you can see the premiums there. You guys paid Walmart $937, almost $938,000. You take claims divided by premiums, you get a loss ratio. Your loss ratio is 94.8%, so almost 95%. So for every dollar we paid Walmart, they paid out 95 cents in claims. The target loss ratio is between 75 and 80% to get a trend renewal or to get to get kind of what is trend out there. So Crawford County running at a 95% loss ratio, we would be looking at probably a double-digit increase with Walmart. That's what you would deserve. I'm not saying I would give you one, but that's what we would have deserved. We did pull January's claims, so it wasn't on this Walmart report here, so we just made a note there. January premiums paid versus claims paid was 108%. So every dollar you paid Walmart in January, they paid out $1.08. So not a very winning proposition for them. Any question?
Nope, keep going.
All right. I don't really like that.
Typically, industry-wide, it's 70 to 75%.
75, from the ACA pass, there was a law, it's not group specific, but the carriers had to pay out 80% of their dollars in claim. They could have about 20% for admin fees. So that's why we say a target loss ratio is between 75 and 80. That gives Walmart a margin, provide customer service for you to keep their lights on.
Medical inflation goes up too. So I think that's where they like to see that dip as well. For reference, I have a group, same exact size from an enrollment standpoint. They had a 95% loss ratio and got a 15% increase. So that's kind of where you see apples to apples. A lot of it too is how that group is run. If you're outside of the trust, but now with us being in the trust, you'll see the protection that you get with that higher loss ratio with what we're saying.
But yeah, but the ACA kind of said, no carriers, if you gotta pay 80% on claims. So there have been situations, carriers in Iowa have rebated groups if their loss ratio is below 80%. And it's not on a group by group basis, but the carrier basis, they have to pay out 80% of the money they take in towards claims. So you can just see, that's why we say target loss ratio, 80%. Crawford County run at 95. If you throw in January, we're probably up to 98%, 99%. If we blended those. So if we were standing here as a standalone group, or if you guys are self-funded, you can imagine maybe the money that would have went out the door. This next page, maybe a little bit out of order here, but just a reminder, you guys are buying two plans. So you can see IGCP plan 14 and IGCP plan 16. We're buying plan 14 down to that $1,500 deductible. So you can see the next slide says PSF, 3,000 out of pocket. So we're buying it down. So your members, even though IGCP's, or excuse me, Crawford County's taking on these higher limits after the partial supplement's coming. I'm just showing here that we're buying two plans, we're buying them down. So you can see the HSA plan 6,350, we're buying it down to 3,500. So this is the same plan you guys have today. The other thing we're coming in and tell you, when we talk about the increase next, it's with the exact same plan design you have today. So there's no change in plan design unless you guys say, hey, we want to change plan design somewhere.
When we're going over were we more medical expense or medicines? Prescription? Do we know that?
And we can share over the high cost claimants, because Wellmark will send us a page that says anything over $10,000, here's where those were at. When we share those over for reference, anything in all capital letters will be driven by a pharmacy. I think looking through those claims, a lot of it was medical.
Okay, so that stuff could go away.
Yeah, a lot.
Potentially.
Yep, correct. Most of the times we see RX continue to be ongoing. It could go up and down depending on new pharmacy bills, legislation, just how people and contracts are going. But I believe for your population, a lot of it was medical.
Okay.
And what is the PSF?
Partial self-fund.
Partial self.
So The plan on the left, so if you start left, right, that plan
Right.
14, that's the plan we're buying. The plan your employees are realizing is the PSF plan.
Okay.
So Crawford County is taking on the risk between that 9,100 out of pocket and the 3,000 out of pocket. So I'll talk about that in just a little
Okay.
bit. And same thing with the HSA plan you guys have. Yes, and to your question, the page I took out, I think you guys had 20 high claimants. There's 20 people listed with over $10,000 and it said their conditions on there. I just
Don't
thought,
say their name though.
it doesn't say their name, but you can still, it says so-and-so had, it says male, but age category, and what the diagnosis was. Some of them were probably pretty obvious, so for the purposes, maybe probably leave that out.
Okay.
All right. This next page has a lot of numbers on it, and I'm gonna work backwards. I'm gonna take you to the bottom right corner, percentage change. They're asking for a 0.28% increase. So less than 1%, less than a 0.5% increase next year, if you keep everything else even.
I like it.
Yeah. So the trust performed very well. The trust actually came out with a 0% increase. IGHCP, the entity that runs the trust, they haven't had a pay raise or increase in their fees in, I think they said since 2014, 10 years. So the membership in Crawford County has one vote. There's nobody at the meeting from Crawford County because it didn't work out for you guys, I believe. Everyone had one vote, but it passed unanimously to give IGHCP a $5 raise. So you can, I'll walk through these numbers, but that's where the 0.28% increase is coming from. Otherwise, it would have been a 0% increase this year. And again, if you guys were on your own, I think we'd be looking at probably 15% increase, like comfortably said. So good job of this group for taking a leap of faith, for Amy and team for helping people get through. I know there was some hiccups in the beginning. It's a different concept, but it was 100% the right idea for Crawford County to do this. We don't get to deliver very many 0.2, 0.8% increases.
That's why you didn't do work.
That was my joke. We liked that, this didn't we?
And you can guarantee that moving forward.
Next time he walks in, you're gonna be like, oh, great.
You'll need a lawyer to say yes on that one, so, yeah.
Nice suggestion.
But yeah, the trust, so even though Crawford County maybe ran at 100 and some % loss ratio, the trust as a whole, with those 5,000 belly buttons and 3,000 or 5,000 employees, 13,000 belly buttons, the risk is just spread over so many people. It didn't matter that Crawford County had a bad year this year. City Water, Waukee had a good year. Des Moines Waterworks had a good year. Region 12, had a good year. I don't know specifics. I'm just saying, we're taking turns having our good and bad years. So we can all kind of just have this nice, easier, because there are gonna be increases in the future, but.
Agreed. What is this idea of the plan?
What's that?
That's the idea.
That's the idea of the plan.
Yeah.
To take out those big peaks and valleys, so. And I wish, it would have been great coming in here and saying it's a 0, but the only increase you can see there's in red, they charge you guys. Current year, they're charging you guys $10 for every single on your plan, 25 for every family. That's going to 15 and 30. That's non-negotiable. That's to be in the trust. And again, they haven't had an increase in 10 years. And their fees and the service they provide, put on the annual meetings and things like that. So I'll point you guys to one other thing. I can walk through every single number if you want me to. But I'll point you to one other thing. Down in this claim fundings piece, so the second solid green line. Remember, you guys are also, some of this $2.2 million is money that's sitting in Crawford County's bank account, because we're still partial self-funding. So we're set aside this year to $327,457 in our own bank account, in Crawford County's own bank account, to pay those claims between that $9,100 out of pocket and the $3,000 out of pocket, the $6,350 out of pocket and the $3,500 out of pocket. So you guys are setting part of this annual premium is money that you guys are set aside to pay those claims. So I'll talk about how that's been running as well, because that's even better news,
You like good news.
or that's good news. So if you go down to maybe this bullet point here, I guess is a good place to start. Through February, we paid out, annualized, we paid out, through February, we paid out $203,430. Annualized, that's $305,146. We've set aside $327,000. So the money we set aside to pay these claims were about $22,000 ahead of that budget as well. That's money that didn't leave accounting. So This increase down here, this 0.28% is $7,412. Arguably, we're running $22,000 better in this other bucket. We could offset that 4,000 or $7,412 if you wanted to. I don't know if you guys have that in mind, you're thinking about increasing health insurance budget this year or not, to maybe keep building that fund. Terry, I know you guys came off SNP funding. You have a reserve too, so
We, you know,
That's
it's
more-
depleting, of course.
yeah,
Because the board had decided to support the HSA accounts for those employees that chose that different rates depending on whether it's a single or a family plan. So, yeah, I know we've had some discussions about it, or the board has, so.
We didn't want to quite deplete it down to zero on our
Right.
secondary.
Yep.
Would you call it a secondary self-fund fund?
Right, yeah. Yeah, because the main one obviously is
Like you got.
with EBS and
Mhm.
that whole business, so, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you could just, if the county had a number in mind that they wanted to pass on the employees, you know, or you guys thought the rates were gonna go up and they're going up 0.28, you know, might be a nice message, to say no increase in rates to the employees, or hey, if everybody reads the newspaper. My insurance homes are going up 15% or 10% or something like that. You know, your insurance go up 0.28%. That's pretty good message across the board, but you guys have flexible.
Big mild increase.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I think the decision too of that HSA, you can see that we'll talk through the premium differential too between the two plans. I think there is even a benefit of the dollars that we're putting into the HSA, steering employees over to that high deductible health plan. We're actually saving money getting employees over to there because of the premium cost. So you can kind of view it as apples to apples. As we're giving employees the benefit of that plan, those that don't utilize the plan, they're paying less in premium, but they're also getting those HSA dollars. And then the county is also receiving a benefit just with lower fixed premium as well.
Yeah, so you guys had 24 people take advantage of this first year. So we had
That was surprising,
Yeah.
yeah,
really, I thought, but
I think that's a good win,
Yeah,
right?
it's a
You know,
good-
for having a few meetings and maybe not everybody's used to the concept to get 24 people that first year. And I think you'll have word of mouth.
Too,
What's
like
that?
with new employees,
Yeah,
you know, I kind of really try to explain that HSA, and if you're younger, if you don't go to the doctor, like, look at all this money that you could start saving with this match that the employer puts in, or not match, but just puts in. So, you know, people have taken it that maybe.
And you gotta take the HSA with you if you leave.
right, yeah, there's a lot of benefits to an
Amy, do you think
HSA.
there's more more current employees interested in switching over to the HSA plan?
You know, I don't know. I don't think I would see anyone switch at this point. I think the ones that saw the value, switched, and the ones that are scared because of prescriptions and that kind of stuff stayed on that traditional plan. I would imagine maybe a couple will switch to the traditional when we get to the open enrollment.
go the other way.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd say another piece of that HSA that we like to bring up, and it's education and open enrollment, is those dollars can be invested. So once you hit a certain threshold of typically $1,000, $2,000, you can actually invest those dollars. Joe's a pretty good proponent. We're both on the high deductible health plan at Holmes Murphy. I mean, you can get 6 to 8% return on that annually. And that's essentially an investment account. So we can talk through that at open enrollment.
That's a pretty good return.
Yeah.
It's,
mhm.
so you guys have a great starting point.
Mhm.
The next page, this is the RDR that Terry and team receive on a monthly basis. This is just something that EBS sends out. It's receipts and disbursements. I'm not gonna go through it line to line, but if you go down to like your combined balances, you guys have $41,950 in that claims account right now. That money is held at EBS. This next page, we did, you guys are setting aside about 30% of the risk on the first plan, on the traditional plan, and you're setting aside about 40% of the total risk to Crawford County on the second plan. So what we did here, if you just jump down to the real colorful part down here, what you're setting aside. So for right now with the people on the the 84 people on the $5,000 plan, you guys set aside 287,557. And for the 24 people on the HSA, you guys set aside just under 40,000 at 39,900. Because the increase was only 0.28%, we did show you two other scenarios, and you had money in the budget, and you want to say, hey, we're gonna maybe try to build that reserve back up. You can see there, we showed you 32% and 35% on the first plan, and we showed you 42 and 45 on the second plan. You guys tracking me there? Does that make sense so far?
Any reason it's red or gold?
No,
Just,
no.
okay.
Just to stand out. Nope, nope.
Okay.
Not saying one's good, one's
Good
bad.
yellow, yeah.
So you can see there, like, let's just pick on the plan 14. For every single right now, you guys are setting aside $163 and a penny. If we bumped it up to that 32%, you'd set aside $172.70. That increase would instead of a 0.28% increase, that would bring your increase up to 1.24%. And on the HSA, we do.
And that'd be from the county's perspective, county's cost.
Yeah, we
not
just-
the employee's cost.
You can do whatever you
Well, I
want.
guess we can do it.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Right.
So just kind of saying like, hey, we, every year we think health insurance is gonna go up 10%, you know, if you had 5 in the budget, we showed you 2 options here. This doesn't mean you're going to spend this money. You're just saying, hey, we're gonna say this is for health insurance, we're gonna take it from this bank account, maybe for a rainy day. If you went to 32%, your increase would be 1.24. If you took setting aside 35% and 45%, so the two reds, it would take your renewal to 2.64%, which is still a really, really good health insurance renewal, right? 2.64%, and then break that between county and employees, how you guys see fit.
I think right now we see trend at like 7-8% across the board too. So even
Yeah.
that is significantly lower, and it's budgeted dollars too, so.
So there's just different thoughts, you know, we obviously came here with a 0.28, which is awesome. You know, if you guys take a little bit more this year, next year we come in at a higher number, and hopefully we don't, right? I mean, you know, maybe say, oh, because we took little bites each year, we don't have to take as big a bite, you know, the next year, the third year. So we just wanted to talk about that, because this isn't even money you're necessarily gonna spend, this is just money going into a different bank account that's earmarked for health insurance.
Right.
That you'd be collecting on monthly.
Keep it steady. Keep the ship steady.
I like that. Like, yeah.
And we don't want to get into the.
No, and we should be out of that a little bit just by being an IGSP, like, you know, I think when we were selling, the average increase over the last like 12 years is 3.14%. So you're not gonna really have the 15-0, the 20-0, whatever, but it'll probably be more increase than the 2.28 next year. And I hope it's not, we make the same amount of money, whatever the increase is, but just because we know how the world works.
Yes, we do.
And unfortunately, you know, prescription drugs are getting more expensive. There's new medical technology out there. People are living longer, things like that. So I don't think health insurance is going down anytime soon. So does that make sense? What the gold box, red box represent? Would just be increasing that one line of your guys' claims.
Perfect. Well, I will jump down to the non-medical renewals. This should be quick and easy, as a lot of the lines are in a rate guarantee. Really, the conversation's around dental and vision today. So we'll walk through some of the claims analysis as it relates to your dental claims. They were a little bit higher, and you'll see that in the increase. But as a reminder, obviously, the premium dollars are significantly lower on the medical side. Then the medical side, excuse me, then the medical side. And then we also have a vision option through Delta Dental, Delta Vision, which would essentially offset that increase if we were to choose to go that route. And Amy, feel free to jump in as well too. But a lot of the dental conversation has been around the network access. So some of the providers in town are removing Delta Dental as a network. I think upcoming in April or August. Just one. And there are benefits to that. Before I run through the claims, not benefits, but before I run through the claims, Delta Dental still offers an out-of-network reimbursement tier. So even if employees were to utilize that tier, our hope is that provider would file those claims on that employee's behalf. So they essentially just get reimbursed on those claims that they utilize. If that's not the case, there is another option. We could give them a call of an in-house insurance card. We'd recommend employees talking to that provider if they so choose. But they're essentially dropping Delta Dental in their network. And I would say that's starting to become a little bit more common. Of providers not utilizing insurance reimbursements, not agreeing with the contracts. But that's just a conversation to look out for if you guys are starting to hear employees that's saying, hey, they're not taking my insurance. There is an out of network benefit that we'll talk through. In addition to, you can always go see another provider that does offer Delta Dental as a network.
And Delta Dental is still the largest dental carrier in
They
the
are.
state. It's just, there's been more pushback from dentists all over the place,
Yeah.
saying we want to be paid a little bit more. We're not gonna take Delta Dental insurance or whatever insurance.
But they're not taking any.
Right, yeah.
So it's not like if we just move to a different carrier, that's gonna solve the problem, so.
Correct. It's more just a heads up.
They have the in-house.
They do, yeah, and people want to stay with them.
If, yeah, that don't help you if you're on a trip.
Yeah, exactly. And we can talk through that. On this first page, we'll walk through the dental claims analysis. Again, very similar to what it looks like on medical, but again, we'll run through this. You can see that the total employees, if you look on the left side under census, you can see where we're at from an enrollment standpoint. We averaged around 107 total employees and dependents enrolled in the vision this year.
Dental.
Excuse me, in the dental. I keep jumping back and forth on those.
Well, you got a good offer. Dylan.
Yeah, that's right. I'm excited to talk about the vision. When you look over just from the loss ratio standpoint, so loss ratio on your dental, very similar to medical, dollars paid in compared to the premium dollars spent. You'll look at it from a month to month basis. There were a lot of months that we were over, a lot of months that we were under that $100 threshold. But when you look down below on the 3-year comparison, so that separate box down below, if we look at it from a paid claims versus premium perspective, in 2024, we ran at 98.8%. So granted, that's just right under 100%, but where the increase is coming from is Delta Dental will look back at what was utilized last year and the year before, and you can see that it was a pretty significant jump up from 2023. So it's a 30.4% change from the following year. And again, that's not necessarily bad. That's why we have insurance in place. Again, it's a lower cost standpoint. And dental increases are fairly standard. But when we look back onto page 11, it'll talk through some more of the highlights. The one highlight that I'll like to point out, and again, this could change with the upcoming provider, is the network. So 98 roughly % of your employees and their families used a Delta Dental network provider. That's great. So typically we see that number being roughly 95%. So as much as we can get employees within that Delta Dental network, it's a benefit to them, it's a benefit to you all. As a reminder, within that plan design that we have a $1,500 annual max. We also implemented that to-go feature as well too from last year. So essentially what that means is that $1,500 annual max, if you go visit a dental provider, utilize your insurance, let's say it's $100 on that utilization fee, you'll have $1,400 left over. That will actually roll over into this upcoming year, so you can use that annual max on a more increased basis. So if we're seeing that more live action, look down below at this box on page 11. Just look at these first 2 columns. So that NA annual maximum at 1,000, we can just X that out. That would just show these claims percentage where they'd fall in if we had $1,000 annual max. But at the $1,500, you'll see on the left side, January of 2025. Let's look at this middle box. That'll really show where we performed last year. You can see that 120 employees and dependents only used up to $250 in their annual max. So 69% of your population utilized only $250 of their annual max. So they should see a really good benefit on that to-go feature rollover for this following year. When we look down below of how many employees actually exceeded that, we have 2. So 2 within that $1,500 to $2,000 range. So only 1.2% of your employees exceeded that annual max, which is good news. And I'd say that that's set at a very appropriate level. So this just more gives you some insight of where those dental claims are coming in. Now, what that means from a renewal perspective, as it relates to our loss ratio on the previous page, where we're sitting from an annual max standpoint, that increase is actually coming in at 6%. Now, that 6% seems a little bit higher than usual, but it really only equates to a $6,000 annual increase. And granted, Delta Dental typically comes in at a 3%, is what we see as trend. That 98% loss ratio for this year, along with the jump from last year is right where they're coming in line at a 6%. And again, like Joe mentioned, we view Delta Dental, they're a great partner of ours. They have the largest network across the country. Service is phenomenal. So if you guys aren't hearing any issues with Delta Dental, we would probably recommend keeping that option. And where we can really talk through offsetting that premium is on the vision side. Before I go to the vision, that I'm excited about, any other questions on the dental piece?
So you expect then that 98.1%, if Delta Dental is no longer an, what I want to say, a carrier, an in-person or
That one dentist.
that one dentist isn't using them, that's gonna drop, right? If that's the most popular dentist in Denison.
Correct, and it's employee's choice at the end of the day. So they have the option to either elect dental or not elect dental. If they want to do that in-house option, that's fine too. But also through Delta Dental, there is an out of network tier as well. So they're able to still utilize that provider. But they may pay the upfront cost of that visit at the time of service. Then hopefully that provider would send in that reimbursement to Delta
And when you
Dental.
say the provider, you're saying that dentist
Correct,
company?
correct.
So, and if they don't do that, how much of it is a problem for the employee to submit that information?
It's as simple as sending in that EOB to Delta Dental. Now, granted, it's an extra step and would cause a little bit of disruption. Ideally, the first step would say, if you don't feel as attached to that provider, try to find an in-network dentist. It works really, really well. We've called that provider multiple times to see if they would submit the reimbursement on the employee's behalf. The last time we called 2 weeks ago, they said yes.
Okay.
So we will continue to update and monitor that. We'll hopefully get a final confirmation to you guys over before decisions are made, but that would be a really big help.
So Delta Dental will still play the majority of those charges. It's just that since this dentist is now on a network, they can be balance billed the difference. So you
Correct.
as the consumer can be balance
The
billed. a small
employee will
difference.
be paying the day that they get the service.
Yeah,
And they'll be waiting 30 days for reimbursement to come back to them.
but if he had, or you talked to he or she,
Yeah, sure.
she said she'll send it in for them.
Correct.
So I don't think they'll have to pay up front then.
No, they will.
Oh, they will.
Yeah, they'll have to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then provider would submit reimbursement. Delta Dental would then send that to the employee. So we're hoping that would be the easiest case if an employee would to utilize that provider, and that out of network tier. Does that make sense?
Does what they cover differ between in-network and out-of-network?
Slightly,
Yeah.
and I think there is.
So they may get less coverage with.
And that's what we call balance billing. So let's say a teeth cleaning is for easy math, $120. Delta no pays $120. It's usually covered 100%. Now this dentist is charging $130. Delta Dental will pay them $120. They'll bill me the $10 difference. I'll get balance billed.
If it's that cheap.
Yeah. I mean, Delta Dental's still gonna pay what's usual and customary
Right.
for the zip code, but this dentist is likely going to charge more. That's why that's why they didn't agree to sign with Delta Dental yet.
The
But I mean,
employee,
Delta Dental,
the employee will have paid $130 when they leave the office.
right,
Yeah, and then they'll get $120 back.
They'll get
Correct.
$120 back. So that's where you're gonna see
Yeah.
your, for simple math, but it's not gonna be $10.
but I guess Delta Dental, what they cover versus in-network or out-of-network, using your teeth cleaning charge, if you're out-of-network, we only pay 50% of what we normally charge versus
There is a slight
in-network,
difference.
Yeah.
we pay 100%,
I don't believe we
up
have.
to, $120.
We can share that in follow-up. It'll show you all three columns. It is a slight increase. I wouldn't say it's really anything too significant. And I believe this change with the providers actually happening before 7/1. So you may have employees that are disrupted by this prior to the renewal. And I know they know about it. I know. it's been brought
Yeah,
up
the
too.
provider has actually been very good about getting communications out to
Yes,
everyone.
yeah.
But the only thing is that provider is not letting us know, like how much is a teeth cleaning? Cause I am one of their patients and I asked, okay, next time I come in, it's gonna be after April, how much is the teeth cleaning? well, you know, they couldn't tell.
I have an
And-
appointment April first,
And
I'll
I
let
have
you
to
know.
get
Yeah, there you go.
and x-rays and all of that, so that's even, you know, more, so I'm like, are we talking 500 or 1,500? Like, you want me to pay up front? How much am I paying up front? And they couldn't tell me, so that was a little frustrating.
Yeah,
Not
I
that
know.
that's on them, that's the provider, so.
Yeah, they should
6
know.
months too.
They haven't decided what their fee schedule to be yet, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not really worried about a teeth clean. I'm worried about if you got some work that has to be done.
Right,
Right.
but I will say, I called the dentist that's literally right across the street, and they said that they're getting an influx of patients. So it was a good thing I called when I did, because they're gonna be busy.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think a lot of people are changing.
Mhm. So it's more of a heads up. That's where we sit at today, and we're more than happy to jump into the conversation, just to hear from what employees are
Yeah.
talking through after April. So when we look to the vision, we actually have a flat increase, so $0 increase with VSP today. Now what most of our clients do is pair their dental along with their vision with the same provider. So in this case, Delta Dental and Delta Vision. So we went out and said, hey, Delta Vision, if we paired vision with you, what would that look like? So we got a quote. Down below on page 14, you'll see your current VSP plan and how it relates to the Delta Vision alternate. Anything in green is a plan enhancement. Anything in red is a plan detriment. But what I'll say is that's the out of network tier. So ideally, most of our employees would be utilizing the in-network tier. And if they do that, they'll actually see a plan enhancement in addition to a 32% decrease from what the annual premium is today. So granted, very little in premium, but when we look at it from an annualized change, today we're paying $23,000 roughly in an annual premium with VSP. If we traded over to Delta Vision, it would be a $16,000 annual difference, which would typically offset that dental increase. We've also gone back to Delta Dental and said, hey, if we implement vision, can we get that to a flat increase on the dental side? So hopefully we can kind of get the best of both worlds.
Maybe they'll meet us in the middle.
Yeah, maybe they'll probably meet us in the middle.
I don't think it's zero, but.
Yeah, so more than likely, that's what our goal is. If we wanted to transition over to Delta Vision, but wanted to see kind of thoughts, considerations and questions around that.
Coverage.
And your note down below, Keith. what is-
Yes, the network.
Right, the network as far as,
Good question.
Okay.
Yeah, so Delta Vision uses the iMed network, VSP utilizes their own. iMed has a large national presence. Delta Vision does a great job. Most of our clients are with Delta Vision. We looked at Family Eye Care and Vision Care Clinic, I think are both within this area. Both are in network with Delta Vision as well too.
okay.
Oh, good.
So really employees would not see hopefully any disruption. If they wanted to look, for certain, there is a provider search tool that they'd be able to utilize within Delta Vision.
Same benefits, same,
The
Well,
benefits
copays are
are,
better.
yeah, copays are actually better within the
Okay.
in-network. So
20
you'll
to
see,
10.
yeah, 20 to 10, and then the frame allowance actually goes up $20, from 130 to 150. So the frame
So I-
allowance goes up. Go ahead.
No, yeah, right now your employees are, yeah, so he said everything green's better. Right now your employees are paying $20 for an exam and $20 for the materials. The Delta Vision quotes a $10 copay.
okay,
And then the premiums are 32% less too.
wow. All right, let's
So-
do it.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So would it be the same bill as dental, or are they still separate?
I believe so. Yeah, so it'd fall under the same category. I think from an employee standpoint, it'd be easier just from the portal side as well too.
Okay.
So that's kind of what we do at Homes Ortho as well. So, typically you see dental and vision sort of together from a provider standpoint. Right now, we're able to leverage it because we don't have it this year. So it actually looks like a better.
Here's the other nice thing, they gave you a 4-year rate guarantee too.
Yeah,
So they won't,
it's
it's not like a bait and switch.
4-year
Theyll lock these rates in for
for
4 years.
Delta, just Delta Vision?
The Delta Vision.
until 2029 and then VSPs until 2027. So Delta Vision's giving us a significant, yeah, thank you for catching.
So lock those 32% savings in for 4 years, so it's not a bait and switch type thing.
I like it.
I like it.
And we'll send, sorry, go ahead.
I'm in favor of that.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, we'll send follow-ups to this, and then we'll obviously talk through renewal decisions and go through firm and final, but wanted to bring that to your attention. Awesome. Well, we'll just briefly run through these last couple of slides. Your life and disability, life and AD&D, long-term disability, and then your voluntary products of life, spouse life, and dependent life, are all in a no change for this year. So your renewal is flat. So what we did talk through about plan enhancements is a potential add of worksite products. So if you think traditionally of AFLAC, so your critical illness, hospital indemnity, accident insurance, we typically see those being offered as a voluntary coverage. So if we're not making any plan design changes this year, any vendor changes this year, that could actually be a plan enhancement. And it may not be a this year offering, it could be next year as well. Potentially when we go to market these lines of coverage, we could use it as some leverage. But for example, accident insurance, if I were an employee and I have a kid playing a sport, when it goes and breaks a leg, they're obviously going to get a medical bill from that. This vendor, if they were to be enrolled in this program, would actually send a reimbursement of a specific dollar amount to help cover those claim costs. So that's kind of how some of those plan designs work. We don't have those listed yet today, but we wanted to talk through just potential adding of your benefits program as it relates to this upcoming renewal.
People are asking about it.
People asking about it. Typically
We
with
did have some employees ask about it. You said?
No, I don't know. Or people asking about those types of benefits.
Oh, I
I
see.
haven't had people ask, I've had the vendor ask.
Sure. Oh, okay. Well, that's funny. Never mind. Yeah. Yes, they
And
typically.
we tell them, I mean, we tell them.
Yeah.
You know, hey, if you want to send something out, you know, give me something, I'll put it, you know, out to the employees. But they'll, you know, contact you, you're not coming in
Right. and
and selling and all that, and no one's ever been interested. But I also think because it's not coming from,
Sure.
you know, like, board or whatever, that I just don't think anyone's interested. So maybe if it was offered through our old plan, maybe they would look into it, but yeah, and it would be awesome to say, oh, we already have someone.
Right.
Please go away now.
Yeah, and I think we kind of wanted to start the conversation today. A lot of the times when we quote all of your lines of coverage, we'll go back to the vendor and say, hey, if we added worksite, could you give us an additional rate guarantee? Or could you bump down the lines on the employer paid? And they'll typically do that. So it could be a conversation and implementation of next year, if we may have.
Is there an enrollment, like, you have to have 50% of the employees do it? or-
Correct. Typically it's 10%, or roughly 10 employees. So depending on the vendor, they'll come back and say, we need at least 10 employees to be enrolled in this lots of coverage for it to be active.
Well, I think it's worth looking into.
Yeah, we're more than happy to look
How
at
many
it.
different lines would you want to offer?
We typically see 3, so the accident, hospital indemnity, and critical illness.
That's like a cancer
The
policy.
cancer policy,
Critical illness is more encompassing.
correct, yeah. And within those plan designs, it would list out exactly, here's typically what we see a claim fall into this category. Here's what the reimbursement amount would be. So we're more than happy to look at quotes for you guys and share it as well too.
And that's typically strictly voluntary, so
Yeah.
it's not,
Yes.
Indiana County is not paying anything for those premiums, it's just an offering to the employees, kind of like our vision. We
Yeah.
don't pay anything with that vision. It-
But here's something you could have it.
Right.
Yeah.
You get a better group rate, basically.
Yeah.
Offering.
And depending on enrollment, they'll actually typically come down on the employer paid line. So what Crawford County's paying today.
And it typically follows, I guess, the plan that the employee picks. So if I'm just the employee and I just pick the employee plan.
Mhm.
And my spouse has this happen to her, it doesn't cover.
Correct. They would need
If I
to
have a
elect.
family plan.
Yep.
Then it does.
Yep, correct,
And my premium reflects that.
correct.
But you could be on you could be on single medical, and still buy these policies on your whole family.
Or not even medical.
Yeah, you don't have to be in the medical plan, you can still sign up for these
I see.
Aflac type.
Okay.
I say Aflac, they're the best
So
market.
when you sign up, you could change, you could have
Yeah.
a single health,
Yep,
but a family for one of
Actually,
these.
yeah.
Same
Okay.
thing with your dental and vision as well.
All right.
But is it after?
No,
yeah.
we call them Aflac, they do the best job
We
marketing out there.
understand Aflac.
It would probably make the most sense to use your current carrier. That way Crawford County gets, you get a discount on your employer paid lines, so.
That was fun. So we just walked through the renewal decisions and then the rest is just appendix. Just coming through renewal decisions on plan designs, the rates and funding. And if we want to adjust our HSA contributions for this upcoming year. The vision alternate utilizing utilizing Delta Vision instead of VSP for that decrease. And then potentially looking at worksite benefits, which it looks like we will look to market this year as well too. To come back with those proposals and see if would like to implement it. That's really what we had for the rules and decisions. Did you guys have anything else that we're missing that you're hearing from employees that you wanted to talk about? Really good news today.
Yes.
I think the medical side we were excited to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You actually
Not
fought
during
to
that.
come.
Yeah, we'll send the lawyer for the bad news.
All right.
Yeah.
No, that's great. And I like the idea of switching to Delta Vision and that's great news. As far as HSA, I don't know how you guys feel about.
I was
I
on
think-
one when I worked. When I worked.
You don't work anymore? No. What the heck we got there?
When I go-
Yeah.
When I worked outside of.
So I just saw on the next page, you kind of have a timeline. Is that? I mean, I guess as a board, do we need to discuss it? I mean, try to, or is today the day where that's it?
Today's not the
Yeah,
day.
you guys, that's the other best part about being an IJCP is we do these renewal numbers so early in advance. Last year, you guys didn't get your renewal until April 1st. So we didn't know we were dealing with whatever increase until April 1st. We are way ahead of the
We had to
game,
go
knowing the
back and
numbers.
make an
are-
Oh,
adjustment
yeah.
after our budget was already set.
Yeah.
Look it
So
up.
you guys got a month or so to say, hey, I know they told us the increase was 0.2, we're gonna say it's 0.3, or we're gonna say it's 3% because we wanna set more money aside in our.
Right, that's what
Reserve.
we need to discuss.
So you
I
guys-
guess as a board.
We will.
Good.
And we can model anything you want. You can say, well, we had 5 allocated. Let's see what 5 looks like. How much more will be set aside in our own reserve? We can do whatever you guys want.
We actually have numbers.
So we have, that's what I'm saying. We have a month or so to figure out what you want to say the renewal was.
All right.
And then we can, once we set the number of the increase was 4% or whatever, we can say, okay, employees are still paying 80, we're paying 83 or 90 or whatever. We can figure out those contributions. The biggest thing is, Amy, you probably want to hold open enrollment a certain May or whatever. So we work back from when she wants us to.
When would you, Amy, like to have enrollment?
The earlier the better.
They're like,
Yeah, Amy.
April 28th, would be
Yeah.
great because
April
I'll be
28th.
gone the first 2 weeks of May.
There you go.
Oh, okay,
It's doable.
well, we can do that. We can use that date.
I mean, I figured if they, if they made the decision, what is that, April? I didn't know how quick your turnaround on pamphlets and stuff like that would be, but like if they make.
Well, there's no plan design changes.
Right.
Right,
So we're just basically updating
The vision.
we gotta do some Delta dental paper or Delta vision paperwork.
right. So yeah, if they make. a
We could be ready by
decision
April 28th, easy.
22nd, or
So we made a decision here by the first week of April, it'd be easily done. for-
Yep.
I don't know why we
Great
couldn't do
timeline.
that.
Yeah.
I mean,
pretty
And then
we
that
can
gives
do
them
that.
all month to make changes, whatever.
Put it on the
and then-
agenda.
And sorry, are you saying start open enrollment on the 28th or end?
Or just have a meeting.
Oh,
Open
meeting.
enrollment would be the
Gotcha.
month of May.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
I think that timeline fits for us. Well, we'll plan to shoot over, obviously a summary of our conversation, renewal decisions. We'll plan to quote those worksite products to see what that looks like. And then we'll make sure to stay on that timeline.
Okay.
So maybe then let's reschedule, month.
Yeah.
And then have you guys come back in and maybe have some additional information that we can make a decision.
Perfect. Perfect.
I think it'll be easy.
Awesome.
And then you guys will talk and say, hey, we wanna see what or
Right,
maybe we're happy with 0.28. I'm not trying to steer you away from just taking the 0.28 and calling it good, but. If you wanna say we want a 3% increase, you don't have to want it, but
We'll
let's
have to
take,
talk.
yeah, you
We're
guys
gonna have
talk.
to talk with Terry, make sure what our
Right.
reserve's doing.
Yep,
We need to.
yeah, cause some of that information we're not privy to, because you guys came off of self-funding, so, we don't have all of that. So that'd be good. And let us know what you guys need.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys have a great rest of your week.
Keep up the good work.
That's okay.
Now you're-
I should probably say, don't shoot the messenger, right? So when it's good news, you don't need to praise us. When it's bad news, just remember that too, though, right? We're just the messenger.
Now you set your bar pretty damn high.
That's all right.
Terrible.
Thanks, guys. Do we want to, we put it just for us, our decision, our discussion in a couple of weeks? Terry, what?
Please.
Yeah, we could.
March 25th, put it on that agenda.
I mean, all I really need to know is where's our reserves at.
Right, whether we need to increase that a little bit, like he said, put a little bit more in the reserves or not, or.
That's about all I really need to know. I mean, the
Same
health
here.
division sounded
Because it
like a
was completed a
no-brainer.
little
Yeah,
bit.
same here, it's just where we set that percentage increase at.
No.
March
2
20.
weeks.
Sounds good.
Okay, we're up to Scout Energy.
Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
We thought you guys gave up.
No, we don't give up.
There's seats up here. Come on up. Yeah. More the merrier. Those chairs over there.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know me, my name is Zach Vlasic. I'm one of the project managers on Silver Queen, and then joined by Bobby, as well as Mark, and Adam as well. And yeah, just came to give you all an update on how Silver Queen is going. So yeah, thanks, for the time today. So just kind of recap summary, for everybody. So the project is 252 megawatts. Roughly 350 landowners have signed up for the project. That's split between Crawford and Carroll County. We're right on the borderline. Right now we're looking at 58 turbine locations, and split between the two counties, we're looking at 33 turbines in Carroll and 25 turbines in Crawford. So that's the divide right now. And for how we're getting the power to the grid, still the same plan as before. We plan on rebuilding and co-locating our facilities with some of the electric co-ops in the area. So there's two old 69 kV lines, one that runs north to south that belongs to NIPCO, and one that runs east to west that belongs to Corn Belt. What we'll be doing is going in, taking down the old monopole and H-frame wooden structures, rebuilding steel structures, almost doubling the span between the structures, and putting both our facilities and the electric co-op facilities on them. And that they will be a little bit taller. Yes, yeah, the poles right now, heights I believe are between 70 and 80 feet. And these poles will be around like 110 to 120 feet tall. Yep, so they'll be taller, but again, also doubling that span. So overall kind of less impact on the ground and less poles to farm around. And from a scheduling, oh, and also please interrupt me if you have questions, definitely. I forgot to mention that at the beginning.
You
For
might even interrupt and not have a question.
go for it. Go for it. For the scheduling of the project, the biggest thing that we're waiting on right now is to sign our last interconnection agreement. So in order for any new generation to be put on the grid, you have to go through the interconnection process, which involves entering the queue of the regional transmission operator. In this case, it's Southwest Power Pool. We entered the queue back in 2017, 2018. There's numerous studies that they have to go through before they kind of give you the right of way to like, you're good to inject power onto the grid. So we're waiting on that last study right now, and we expect that study this August. So with that being said, that's kind of a delay from what we were previously expecting for getting that study back and being able to kind of move forward. So with that being said, we plan on starting kind of some minor construction this year. We're looking at starting some of the construction on the transmission line for NIPCO and Corn Belt, just to get some of that work moving. And we also plan on installing some additional Met towers to continue to collect some wind data. These are Met towers that are typically installed closer to project construction, so that way you're taking wind measurements right at the hub height of the wind turbines. Make sure we have accurate data, we have everything that we need. And then majority of the actual dirt work, turbine erection will be occurring next year, and our goal is to have everything up and spinning by the end of next year. So not a ton on the construction front this year, most of that happening next year, but we will be out in the field doing a couple of things here and there. We also wanted to address that a lot of landowners have recently been receiving packets of information. And Adam Little is our land agent. He's the one that's kind of been handling the day-to-day interactions with landowners. He's here, boots on the ground. The reason for that is because before we start construction on the project, we have to work through title curative. What that looks like is making sure that all of the land that we thought we've signed up is signed up, we have under lease, and B, making sure that the ownership is shown correctly on those agreements. So any landowners that have sold their land, if someone has passed away, if there's a trust now, anything like that, we have to make sure that all of that is accurately reflected in the leases before we start construction. And with 350 landowners, there's a lot of people have sold land, people have passed away, so there's a lot of paper that needs to be collected. So that's the reason why we've been reaching out to landowners, is to kind of clean up all of the title on that front. And then secondly, because of some of these extra delays, some of these agreements we signed way back, 2016, 2017. So we're needing to just extend the development term a little bit more. So that way we have that runway to make sure we have enough time to get to construction, then get through construction. So we can enter operations.
Did the original lease have a time frame on when you had to start construction by the time the lease was signed?
Yes. So the original lease that was signed, it gave us 4 years of development term, which is what we're in right now, with a 2-year extension from us. So we've used those 4 years and enacted that 2-year extension. And so now we're going back for an additional, I believe, 3 years, just to make sure that we have enough runway in case there are any more delays. We don't want to have to come back again to ask for more time. So that's the strategy behind that.
And you mentioned about the grid, I guess that this is gonna create electricity to go on the grid. Who owns the grid? Or who are you guys all providing, when you mentioned those other two carriers, are they all providing power to the same grid?
Yes.
Or do you each have different ones?
Yeah, so all of the grids are interlinked, but there's kind of different entities that oversee different pieces of the grid. So kind of starting, I guess, east to west, there's kind of an RTO for each kind of sliver of the country. You've got PJM, which is Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland. You've got MISO, which is mid-continent. They do, honestly, MISO reaches into Iowa as well. As SPP, Iowa is one of those states that's on kind of the fringe of both. Then you have SPP, which is what the project is in, where the Wappa-Dennison substation is. Then once you kind of hit Colorado, the grid splits into a lot of smaller entities that manage grids. So it becomes even more complex over there. But all one grid, just kind of managed by different entities that are all overseen by one federal entity, which is FERC.
That's
Kind of like the highway system.
Federal Electric Regulatory Commission.
Okay.
I have a
So they're
question.
for everybody to use.
With the poles being taller, 100 to 120 feet taller, than the planned, will that have any impact on the non-landowners? Any of the flicker and any of that, is there any impact to the higher?
There shouldn't be any impact with that. So one of the things that's a state requirement is that, during hot months, you see transmission lines start to snap a little bit, and if it's windy, you'll see some blowout from those lines. And the state of Iowa requires you to have easement rights underneath all of that blowout. So both sides of the line, however far that blowout is expected to go, we need to have easement rights on both sides of that
So
line.
that's what, there's actually gonna be more easement rights have to be signed because of the colors.
Correct.
You worked on that correctly?
We have all the easements signed that are needed for the line.
Okay.
Correct, and for that as well, it was a requirement for all the easements to be signed in order to get our state permit,
Okay.
which is the franchise process. And that is a state process for any new transmission line that's being built. So we had to have all those signed before that.
Basically, all
process.
you're doing is the easement, so it's cleaning up if there's somebody passed or properties changed hands. Like the easement, I mean, whenever you buy property, if there's already an easement on it, that gets transferred to you. So
Exactly.
Just making sure all that stuff's.
Yep.
Everybody does.
Zach, it'd be worth pointing out, I mean, Porter Belt's existing transmission line is on the half section line, right? So as we look at potential impacts to neighbors, that transmission line is on the half section line, so you aren't up against a county road, you aren't up against a bunch of houses. You're on the half section line, so we're taking down a vintage 1960s transmission line and rebuilding it with a new transmission line, so it's really minimally impactful to folks out there.
And to hit on your point a little bit more, Gene, the IUB also through that permitting process also takes a look at like, are there new lines near houses? Like they have 150-foot setback from houses is their requirement. Here it's even more, as to Mark's point, it's on the half second line. They also take a look at that though before they issue the permit.
So I want to make sure.
IUC.
It's IUC now, yep.
Who can remember that?
Yep. Yeah.
And how does Scout make its money? I mean, it just kind of fascinates me, does the grid pay the electric companies for the amount of electricity that they produce?
So
Or do you make a percent of what goes, whatever you provide to the grid, that's the percent that you make?
So a lot of these projects, the money is made off of entering into purchase power agreements. So an entity that's actually buying the power from the project. So you have kind of all sorts of different entities that buy power from projects, whether it's an electric co-op, whether it's utility, some corporates buy power as well, like an Amazon.
So
or
Scout
Google or
doesn't
something
do
like
that, they don't buy the energy.
Correct. We do not buy the energy. We'll build the projects. Someone will purchase the power from us. That's ultimately what funds the project to help get it built, along with financing that we do as well. And then we get the revenue off of that purchasing of the power. Yep.
So for example, I mean, we develop, we construct, we operate projects.
Okay.
So we just finished construction on the Markham Solar Project, which is outside of Waco, Texas. The entity that is buying the power there is Colgate Palmolive, right? So you're brushing your teeth, you're washing your dishes, you're using, Colgate toothpaste, Palmolive. So they had a need, they had a demand for additional power, and they approached us to ultimately buy the power off the plant. So how are we making money? Well, we're going to operate that plant through, the 20-year term of that power purchase agreement. We also got a construction fee to build it, right? And we also have to recoup what we had in that plant to develop it. So, that's how Scout ends up making money.
Okay, thank you.
Well, since,
Go ahead.
excuse me, the original concept of this, I know even when you guys were here before, you guys plans have changed. You downsized the number of towers in. Has that shrunk in a sense? Have you, I don't remember, you're down to 58 now.
Yeah.
Has that decreased? I mean, were you at 75 or something when we originally came here?
Well, we were even
Yeah.
more than that. I mean, the project goes back to, 2016 when
Right.
Scout restarted the project. And gosh, then it was supposed to be 300 megawatts. I think we're using the GE 1.5 megawatt wind turbine. So you've seen this project go from a couple hundred wind turbines that have smaller generators in them to now 58 turbines that have bigger generators in them, so.
So I guess. So in essence, are the towers taller or are we still same tower height? Cause in essence, with the agreements we had in place with some of these the homeowners, it's gonna push some of them setbacks away.
You're absolutely right. So we're looking at that agreement, and as the turbines get taller, you're absolutely right. You gotta actually get further away from residences.
Or with that being said, less turbines, are you able to readjust and not have them next to houses?
Well, the good news is we're 31,000 acres, so we have a lot of running room out here to be able to adjust the
Cause I
turbine.
think that would be beneficial to these people that you could now with less turbines. We don't have to have one by Aaron's house.
That's right.
or by
Farther away.
John's
Thinking
house,
about it,
or
right?
whatever.
Yeah, and us, we wanna be good neighbors. I mean, this is a long-term relationship we have with you all, the county, the other, members in the community, our
You
landowners.
guys worked hard with us first time, I remember.
Yeah, and we wanna keep the turbines as far away from residents as possible. Unfortunately, here.
That's great news.
We have
We
a lot
appreciate
of
that,
running
yeah.
room, so.
Have you had much pushback from people in the community or as you're out and about trying to find sites?
So I don't want to speak for, Zach and Adam. I mean, they've been out visiting with landowners, but what we've started to do, with our landowners that are signed is show them where the turbines are going and where we're going to walk that big heavy lift crane and where we're going to put that underground collection through that, bean field or through that cornfield. So we've been sitting down, visiting with the landowners one-on-one to work through the design. And certain landowners will say, you go out there with that collection line that's gonna be trenched 42 inches deep through that cornfield, and they say, well, why don't you just move, that collection line here to avoid this area of the field that might have a higher yield than another portion of the field that they might be getting, poorer yields on. So we're working with the landowners day in and day out to incorporate those little changes.
I got a question. I was speaking with the Greene County engineer, and they're in the middle of a lawsuit where I suspect it was the turbine people, and I don't sound like it's a project either, but they actually drove one of their cranes down one of the concrete road and just tore the hell out of it.
So Paul left, but we have the road use agreement already in place here in Crawford.
Well, he's still here for a couple more.
But that agreement's done in Yankton. We cannot do that. So under the terms of the road use agreement, we can't walk that crane across asphalt roads and you can't walk it laterally down the road either. So that's already in the road use agreement that we have with y'all. So
I just, I couldn't remember all the stipulations, and after he said that, that was what we actually, that's what triggered me. Gosh, where we haven't heard from scouts for a while. I wonder if they're still working or what happened to them, but.
Does that agreement ever expire, or how long is that agreement?
It's through the life of the project.
Life of the project.
Craig's got a question.
And I was just curious, what can a typical landowner that puts up, one of these, windmills, what can they expect for annual income?
Do you wanna talk to our payments? and
Sure.
our-
Yeah, so for annual income, so I'll start with development. So we're in the development term right now. So right now, we pay landowners $1 per acre value. It's smaller than what the actual operations is because we haven't done any work yet. Once we hit construction, they get $3,500 per turbine installed on their property. And then all landowners also get $1 per linear foot of collection, whether it's underground collection we put on their property, crane paths that we put on their property, or access roads. Then, once we enter operations, we pay a crop damage fee for any crop damage that occurred during construction. Then they start making $7,500 minimum per turbine per year. And that is then supplemented with an actual a piece of the revenue that turbine generated for us. They get a percentage of that revenue. And then anybody that didn't get a turbine, they get an annual payment of $1 per linear foot installed on their property of collection and access roads. Then they also get a community royalty, which is a percent paid to them based on how much acreage they bring to the collective
So the
project.
25 turbines that are going in Crawford County, you have more than 25 people that want one.
Yes.
So what you're saying. So how do you determine who does and who doesn't? Use it draw them out of a hat? Or
Yeah,
or is it
I will,
where
I'll
we
start.
where we want them in this area?
Yep. I'll start with, I wish I could give every turbine or give every landowner a turbine that wanted one, because there are a lot of people that do want one. Unfortunately, that's not possible, but there are a lot of studies that go into where turbines are located. One of the big reasons for that is, setbacks from houses is a big one.
Sure.
So if you've got, a couple of houses in like a tight area, that kind of cuts out some area that you can build in. Beyond that, you've got, we take geotech studies, so that's like soil samples at turbine pad sites. That helps determine whether a turbine can be built there or not. Depends on like the topography of the land. If it's really hilly and difficult to get like an access road in there, makes it a little difficult to get a turbine put in there.
So out here, there are a lot of terraces.
And
So
terraces, yeah.
every project, has their unique challenges. Out here, you have a lot of terraces. So we can't go cut through any terraces. So we aren't going to cut through any terraces with turbine access roads or collection. So the terraces, have us constrained, and roads are expensive to build. Collection is expensive to trench in and get in the ground. So we want to minimize how many feet of road we're building and how many feet of collection we're getting in the ground. So that starts to take 31,000 acres and turn it down in a hurry.
All
So
right, so when you see the turbines that are currently out there, when you drive across the state of Iowa, there is a method to the madness. It's all
Yes.
why they are where
Yes.
they're at.
When they're all perfectly in line, they have it easy.
Really, we take like the box on the map and we take all these aspects into consideration. We essentially highlight the areas like, hey, we can put a turbine here and a road here. And to Mark's point, that limits the 31,000 acres that we have signed. So like, here's actually where you can play and, you know, put where the turbines.
Okay.
can
Nice.
go.
Interesting.
Big wheat field out there, that's flat and paved,
What's
that's
that?
a lot easier, so.
I could pull, last time you heard the dirty air created was like quarter mile with the last turbines that you were, so what's these bigger ones, is it? 2/3 of a mile staggered, because it 3/4 of a mile?
Yeah, so the rule of thumb is you set back based off your rotor diameter, so as the air passes out the backside of the blade on the turbines, it's really turbulent. So you gotta let your wind recharge before you hit your next downwind string of turbines. That way you aren't placing a lot of stress on your blades and your drive shafts, and your gearbox in that machine. So the rule of thumb is about 5 rotor diameters, so out here, we're probably pushing about, what, a half a mile from your upwind to your downwind string of turbines to let your air recharge. So that's another reason on 31,000 acres, all of a sudden, you're setting back upwind and downwind, you know, roughly a half a mile to get your turbine sited right.
Does Scout work with anything other than just wind?
We do solar as well, and we've our first battery up going in now in California, so, yeah.
You've been hearing up like with power plants for natural gas, small nuclear plants, different things are starting. Because of the data centers and all the other crap, I just wondered what you guys are, how your market share is starting, if it's changing at all.
Well, I would just say, I mean, the data centers are a good point to bring up. I mean, when you look at just the demand forecast in the United States over the next 5-10 years because of the data centers, I mean, we're just about, you know, going to double the amount of demand because of the data centers. So what we're seeing, I mean, who is it, Microsoft that wants to fire a 5 Mile Island, the old nuke plant, and that's how much demand is out there for power. So I'm an all of the above kind of guy. I mean, it's going to take all the above generation sources in order to supply power to these data centers and keep the lights on in all of our homes and businesses, so.
Do you have any proposed or future projects here in Crawford County or Western Iowa coming up besides this one?
Yeah, this is our one and only here in Iowa, so.
And that's not including the Bitcoin. That
Yeah.
Bitcoin,
Miners out there.
right.
I feel like that was big for a while. I don't know. I haven't heard a lot of Bitcoin stuff recently, but.
I've seen there was a Bitcoin company that purchased 5 acres of ground in Iowa to
Really?
put up whatever, processing center.
Yeah.
They've been down for like.
What do they call it?
2 or 3
Do they
weeks.
call it a processing center?
Mining
center.
Mining center, that's it.
Yeah, Bitcoin's been down quite a bit lately.
Well, all right, love the market, bye, that's my answer.
So hitting on the transmission line a little bit is, I mean, we're working hand in hand with Warren Belt and NIPCO to get this transmission line done. It's a great solution, right? So taking down 1960s infrastructure, we're putting up the project transmission line. The co-ops will keep the bottom circuit. We'll have the upper circuit. The reason is the co-ops don't have the equipment that they're on the upper circuit because of the height of the pole. So the co-ops are going on the lower circuit. We're using a local firm, TGR Engineering. They're working through all the engineering and design for that transmission line. We're meeting with NIPCO and Farm Belt weekly to talk through the design, the project schedule, to get their approval on the designs, because we're both impacted by it, so.
So their wires will stay at the same level, same height as they are?
Probably within, what, 10 feet?
Yeah, within 10 or 20 feet, like a little bit taller
Okay.
probably.
So they
but-
won't be all up on the top?
We'll be on that top
We'll be on the
circuit.
top.
Yeah, they'll be on. theirs.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay,
Right, any further questions?
thank you.
the life expectancy?
For the turbines or transmissions? Yeah, so the turbines, if you're treating them right, so you're flushing hydraulics, you're changing gearbox oil, you should be able to get about 15, 20 years out of these turbines. The plan is, you know, after 15 years, if you take down those old machines and you put up the new machines and you continue to operate that plant. So our leases are you know, for between 40 and 50 years, depending on where in the country we are. So the idea there, if we can take down the old generation of turbines and put up the new generations of turbines.
Particularly, the concrete base. Do you have any history on, how long they last or how long?
Yeah, so the concrete, plants that went in the early 2000s, and they're leaving the concrete in the ground, and they're putting up a new turbine actually on those concrete foundations. So, I mean, those concrete foundations, I mean, they're oftentimes engineered, in order to put new machines up on them. So that concrete lasts a long time, so.
No decay in it or anything.
No decay.
Same with the poles.
Yeah, so the poles, these will actually be steel poles that'll be going in as opposed to the wood poles. So gosh, your life expectancy on a steel transmission pole is going to be probably about 30, 40 years. So long as you don't have, what takes out your transmission poles are icing, right? So ice is what'll do you in, and same with wood poles. So, you know, if Mother Nature's kind to you and you don't have a bunch of icing events, those poles you could be pushing about 40 years out of. But if you have icing and you have loading, you might have to switch those poles out sooner.
But they've currently been there 60 years, those wood poles.
Yeah, but you can see on that line, at Cornville and Nimco, they've had a pole, it used to be an H-frame structure all the way through Crawford County. You can tell because of icing and, wind, poles have had to get switched out from time to time, so it's not an H-frame all the way through the county.
Okay.
Or not.
If you have to, in 50 years or whatever the time to renew the poles, could you use the concrete base over? And if not, what would you do?
So the transmission poles, I want to separate this into two conversations. So the transmission poles will not have concrete bases. So the transmission poles will be direct embed into the ground. So in essence, you take a big auger and you drill, what are we, 10 feet, 12 feet here? 10, 12 feet is what you're drilling, and you're direct embedding. So you're setting that steel pole in the ground, and then you're just using aggregate to stabilize that pole, and then you're backfilling. So you don't actually have a concrete foundation. We will, when we are here at the Wabatt Dennison substation on some turning structures, but where we're going cross-country, you won't have any concrete foundations on the transmission poles.
Just like your corner posts, they'll be set.
Exactly, yeah, you set a corner post, yeah, you use quick grease set that corner.
Okay.
Sounds to me like you're trying to build something that you can use for a very long time and rebuild. You don't wanna just build and abandon.
You're absolutely right, because specific to the transmission line is, so let's say 40 years from now, there's not a demand for power, you know, the wind farm is ultimately removed, the turbines are taken down. Well, Cornville and NIPCO, juice still has to flow on the wires, right? So the transmission line that we're rebuilding, that's going to remain. That's going to remain for Cornville and NIPCO to continue to transmit their electricity on those structures. So what would happen is if the wind farm goes away, that upper structure, that 230 will be taken off. And then that 69 will remain, and then Cornville and NIPCO will continue to use that facility.
If you had to replace a steel pole, would you need a crane or bucket trucks to do it?
You generally have to bring in a rough track crane to do it. So with the height of these poles, and the poles are sleeves, so you actually, on the transmission poles, you have a base pole, you have a mid, and then you have, is it 2 sleeves or 3 sleeves here?
It's 2 sleeves.
2 sleeves, so you have 2 sleeves, so you have a base and you have an upper. So you'd have to bring in a rough track, small crane, and what you do is you would unhook your wires and you'd have a temporary structure. So you'd hook your wires to the temporary structure, you'd bring in that crane, you'd lift the top section of that pole off, set it on a flatbed trailer, you'd lift the base off, set it on a flatbed trailer, you'd haul it out, then you'd bring in a replacement pole, that'd probably be another 2 sleeve, and you'd set your base, set your upper, then you'd reattach your wires to it.
So I'm thinking the service time to replace that would be more than the H poles where you just send a couple trucks out there.
Yeah,
But do you have any information, any history on the reliability or of those steel poles?
yeah, these steel poles, when you look at, I mean, Mid-American, they're the big player here in Iowa on the MISO side of the grid. When you see the transmission lines that they're building, everyone's using steel poles. Because steel poles, they just simply last longer. They hold up to the elements better. If you have an icing event, they can hold up to load, additional weight a lot better. Your steel poles, they just are way more reliable than your wooden poles and your wooden structures, where you might get maybe 20 years out of a wooden pole. Here you might be pushing 40 on steel poles, so they just take less maintenance, they hold up a lot better, so.
Sir, for our meeting minutes, can you state your name?
John Poland.
Thank you.
I've got a landowner and a easement with Scout Energy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah, the good thing about the steel poles, as Zach pointed out, is they're also further apart. So the existing line is these wooden A-frame structures, and you gotta farm around these wooden A-frame structures, you gotta spray them. You got two structures out there. I mean, the good thing about the steel structures is they're bigger, they're stronger, they're more robust. You got less of them, you're increasing the span between the structures. You only got one pole out there. They're just a lot easier to farm around, work around, and they take less.
You're keeping the line currently where it is exactly at?
Exactly, yep,
Okay.
yes, sir. Yeah.
I know at one time there's some talk of moving it and into a field farther. Okay.
Next to it.
Yeah, and kind of the backstory there is we were able to work through that with Corn Belt. So the concern there is you're rebuilding, roughly 14 miles of line. Well, to do it, you actually have to de-energize that line. We're going to have to remove it and build that new line back in place. And we're able to work through the outages with Corn Belt. So that existing line can actually stay in place. It'll be de-energized. And they can still keep the lights on for their customers, so. And that's where it takes a lot of coordination with when Corn Belt and NIPCO are going to need to take their outages versus when we need to remove that line, build a new line. It takes a ton of coordination between the two companies, so.
Could you comment on your relationship with Brookfield and how much conversation you have back and forth and how it all works financially?
Yeah, correct. So, I mean, we are based out of Colorado, but our parent company is Brookfield Renewable. So, Brookfield is one of the largest energy generators ultimately in the world. I mean, they got tens of billions of dollars in energy assets. So these are energy assets in the renewable space. They got coal. They have natural gas. They just bought Westinghouse for their nuclear capabilities. So Brookfield is a multi-billion-dollar entity that has generation sources all over the world. So we are one of their portfolio companies. So ultimately, a portion of our funding beyond, as we were talking about operating the assets, the money we make for operating the assets, selling the power, developing the projects, constructing the projects. Some of our funding does come from Brookfield, and they are global. They've got assets all over the world in a bunch of different generation spaces, so.
Well, in essence of time, we do have our conservation director patiently waiting to give us a report. Anyone have any last questions?
Pass these out. Oh, yeah, we also had these folders with just some other information. There's like an About Scout thing in there. There's some more like Silver Queen information, just in case you all receive any questions.
Thank you all. It's good to see you.
And my business card is in all this, so if you guys have any questions, like follow them through me and I'll get them
So
answered.
your card in here?
Yes, yeah, that's my card.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us in. Good to meet you in person.
Yeah,
Thank
nice
you.
talking to you.
Likewise.
Chris.
Chris,
How's it going today?
Welcome.
Lots of information around here today.
yes, 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 yes.
Here's
good
the,
information.
it's not done time, because you're here. You've actually heard most of this before at my budget meeting. I went over it real quick.
Also, they did point out that Silver Queen.
Like usual, unless you have any questions, I'll just go over most of the revenue.
Yeah, just hit the
Yep.
highlights for us.
Camping revenue, yellow smoke, was 150,370, dropped to 131,856, which we did notice. I mean, basically 1,000 nights less camping there.
And why was that less nights? What is the?
I mean, we could tell after the.
I mean, is it just the time period and
Well,
The year-
I
the
think
year, like-
camping is cyclical.
Right?
It goes up and goes out. COVID, everyone bought campers. Cause that's one of the things they could
So
do.
that's why you think it was
It went
high
way up.
previously.
Yeah, we had like 4 record years in a row, like
Okay, so are we,
shooting up.
are you back to pre-COVID?
I mean,
Or-
I don't remember what the number was
Okay.
exactly, but like we went from 7,519 nights to 6,500.
And when you, and what constitutes a night? Is it, so if I have
20 bucks.
10 people there for one night, that's 10
It's per
nights?
site. So one camper, if you stay 14 nights, that's 14 nights of camping. If one camper's there with 50 people, not that that happens, it's one night of camping. It's paid sites.
So 10
So the
campers-
people isn't really, we're not going off people, it's the number of nights a camping pad was paid for.
So if 10 campers are there one night, that's
That's
10
10
nights.
nights, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
And I mean, it's still a lot, but it definitely cycled down.
One, I guess I'd like to,
You probably.
the report you did is excellent. I thought that was really good, but that's what caught me too, was just the
Yeah.
nights were down. And of
Yep.
course, that
And it,
constitutes. the
we could
revenue.
tell after the 4th of July, basically, that it started tailing off. But like I said, it can't be record years every year.
They show up with fireworks.
Usually, yeah.
And they-
2 weeks in
Have we
advance.
ever thought about like, what can we do to promote the park the rest of the year? Because gosh, that's a lot of nights of camping that aren't getting.
I mean, in a normal year, I mean, people have to get there on a Thursday to get spots. It remains to be seen if this is gonna be the new normal or if it jumps back up. But yeah, I mean, advertising and stuff, in recent years, we've pretty much been at capacity. I know local stuff, Jody has, grandkid dance.
Yeah,
They
that's-
moved that out of town and a lot of camp sites were for dance. So that'll be interesting, like Memorial Day weekend, to see if that's gonna hurt us at all or not.
Do you think, we're gonna redo the road out there up to the radio station. Do you think there's a chance, since the Copper Ridge has their events, you think more people might say, hey, camping would be a good idea?
I
I
mean,
mean, I've stayed out there camping before.
I do it.
yeah, a lot of people go that way. I mean, it's a busy road, obviously.
I mean, if I know there's a wedding dance or some, I still camp out and.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Pretty handy.
And
I just wondered if there was other things that we could do in the community that would enhance.
you have to remember, demand for yellow smoke is extremely high.
It's
Even at these lower numbers, compared to what other like counties like in our district do, like they don't come close to what yellow smoke does. I mean, most counties don't have to, like, we've had issues over the years with the 14-day rule and changing that, and people wanting to stay all summer. Most campgrounds, they don't even understand, what, you enforce that? Like, what are you talking about? Because they don't have that type of, that demand.
See people just move around so they can.
Can
We
you,
catch who we
can
can.
you compare campgrounds?
It's tough.
That's what I was just gonna
It's
say.
tough.
It's gotta be really hard to,
Yeah,
if Yellow Smoke is busy, whatever, 75% of the summer days between
yeah. it's-
Memorial Day and Labor Day.
Yellow smoke's unique somewhat because you have a lot of demand. Like there's state parks and other parks that have a lot more,
To do or
Sites?
what?
no, they have more sites. But that would, because people will ask when you're full all the time, why don't you build more spots?
Okay.
Well, you could, but that can actually hurt you because it's supply and demand. When I started, we didn't have that upper campground.
Yeah.
Like Wednesday night, lot of weeks, when I was a summer kid, we'd be full. Just adding those 15 spots, that little bit of insurance for people, that shifted it a lot of times back to Thursday.
Absolutely.
So you want to have appropriate amount of demand. You don't want it so hard that you can't camp ever. But say we added, 50, 60 sites just for giggles, we would lose money because then you wouldn't have to get there early.
You wouldn't have to come till Friday then.
So there's a fine line.
4th of July. that's-
Excellent.
So there's parks,
Because they
state parks
start
that have
paying
hundreds
when
of
they
sites
show
that we
up.
make more money than
Yeah.
in revenue just because of that.
Well, and if you got all them sites, that's that many more to maintain.
Right. Electric, maintaining all that, weed eating, mowing. But yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see if that trend continues. We will see, but it does. I'm guessing it will probably be in that neighborhood again, just because a lot of people they bought their COVID camper and now they don't use it, now they're selling it. So this is not the first time it's gone up and down. It looks worse because we've had like 4 record years in a row.
Jerry's blew over, she never bought another one.
That's right.
And then Nelson Park, was 33,708, dropped to 31,983. The nights actually went, no, she just had it backwards, went down just a little bit, about 100 nights or so. Shelter, Lookout Shelter is the big one there. Went from 99 rentals to 125. There's a lot of Lookout Shelter rentals, even now. Like most Friday or Saturdays and Sundays through the summer are already booked. We turn down people all the time, every day, multiple times a day usually.
So that would probably be something that if you build more of something.
We're trying with the doctors.
That would probably be more profitable for you.
Right, I mean, it would get used.
Do we need to just
That's what I-
increase the price that we charge?
Probably could, but
I mean, we have, a few years ago, I've got a list somewhere. It's 150 now, it's 125 a few years ago. We try and keep it reasonable, but yeah, you could definitely charge
is
more.
that for the whole weekend?
No, it's per day.
Per day? And you're
The
still-
shelter is per day. $150 a day.
And it's still booked for ever.
Saturday and Sunday are, Saturdays, good luck. Most Sundays are booked. Friday nights, because it's a work day, are less popular, but a lot of those are booked too. But, so basically we made a little over $10,000 from shelters. Cabins are pretty steady, went up slightly, just a shade over 50,000 between both parks. Yellow Smoke went from 364 nights to 438. Nelson Park is about $9,000 of that. Went from 200 nights to 205. And that's pretty good considering they're $42 a night and they're only open basically during camping season. And that they don't, they're primitive, so, so that's a pretty good percentage considering Yellow Smoke's, the cheapest cabin is basically almost double that. And it's open year round. So cabin wise, that's like Yellow Smoke. I don't know if you can get a whole lot more. I mean, sometimes you can get some more people in the winter, but usually it's construction workers or whatever. But in terms of summer rentals and stuff, it's pretty much maxed out. Like,
Figure our hunters stayed out there.
Yep. Oh, yeah. But that's the
Are they hard to
highlight.
maintain? I mean, did people generally pretty good
The
with them?
cabins are pretty good every now and then. I mean, pretty much anytime one of the guys goes into a rental, you have to do some minor stuff. No one vacuums like Lookout to what we do. Usually and in fairness, it's a lot harder to see in the nighttime, like under the tables and stuff, or they won't move the tables. The cabins, very rarely are they trashed. I mean, I count that on one hand probably. Might have to sweep up just a little bit or something. Minor stuff. Lookout, we keep money a little bit more, but it's only a few times a year. And like I said, if we kept money every time we had to vacuum, you'd keep money from every single rental.
Yeah, then that would.
But I mean, a quick vacuum for 10 minutes or whatever, we don't worry about that kind of stuff. It's, if we're up there for like an hour or better cleaning stuff, or you can tell they didn't really make an effort, then we'll keep money, but it's not too bad. It can.
And Chris, what on your fund balances, I don't know if you were gonna get to those, is what are those and what are they for in the future?
Oh, I don't look at this sheet too often. But, like the REAP, we get that $8,000 every year, $9,000. You can see that balance is 136,000.
What do you use those funds for?
Okay, that's a restricted fund, so there's only certain things I can use it for. Some capital improvements, like, we could pay Kelly out of that if we wanted. Technically, I budget some of that every year for Kelly, just in case I need to do it. But like Lance, back in the day, he took 3 months of her salary out of that every year. And when I started this job, mostly different, maybe all different supervisors at that point, I mentioned, well, if I can work around that, I'm just gonna let that grow. And I've been able to do that.
For what purpose?
To buy something someday, hopefully.
You said it's restricted. I mean, what?
Like, we could buy a piece of ground with it. Or you could technically, I think you could build a building, like, if we want to do an addition to the nature center someday. Like, I could spend $136,000 on a nature center.
To purchase equipment or?
I can't go buy a tractor with it or stuff like that.
Okay, so you can do an improvement on the park.
Yeah. And like, literally, like,
So if we-
say the bottom fell out of the budget someday. And this is sort of why I tried to leave it there. It's, cause I was here when we laid off a full-time naturalist. I don't know, says early 2003 or something. And if that money would have been sitting there, you wouldn't have to, you could have potentially used that to pay her salary to not lay her off. So I look at it just, if I don't need to spend it, I'm not.
So potential water issue fixing at Nelson's.
Maybe, I'd have to look into that, but probably, it's a general guideline of capital improvement, so probably.
Okay.
Yep,
And then the cabin fund balance?
that is all the money we've made off cabins since the day they started.
So when you get revenue that comes.
It goes
in
into
from
a special
cabins,
fund
it goes
that
into
you-
cabin
the
fund,
supervisors
it doesn't
set
go
up.
into The general fund.
Nope.
It's also built, we need more cabins.
Right,
In-house.
we've used
Right,
that money
that's
to
what
build
we've
it.
used to build the cabins that you got.
Yep,
So
When the-
we've used it, it's built back up, we
Yep.
built a new cabin.
Yep.
built
We
back
did
up.
it, yeah.
You don't have room for more cabins.
So all the revenue from the cabin.
you probably could, but you'd have to like turn one if you wanna do it, cause everyone wants a bigger cabin mostly now.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you wanna do another big cabin, you could put one on the far end, make it number 5, say, but you probably have to turn it,
Okay.
just cause it's starting to narrow up. But like like in the budget, there's a cabin, like the money to buy supplies and pay some of the electric and stuff comes out of that fund as well. So it's not just, it doesn't just sit there.
Doesn't
It's
just get
it's
rid of-
helping, every year it's helping pay for the cabin's maintenance and, you know, if you gotta buy a couch or something that broke.
So when they rent a shelter, it doesn't go into the cabin fund. This
It is
just-
cabins only. The revenue from the cabins is it. And Nelson Park revenue also goes into that.
The cabin.
Cabin.
Revenue.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's strictly in and out for cabins.
Okay.
So, and that can be used for whatever you guys approve to use it for. So,
Conservation Trust Fund?
yeah, that was set up a long time ago. We get random donations here and there over the years. I mean, as you can see, it's not a ton, but that's quite a few years worth of.
And
donations.
Friends of Yellow Smoke is not.
That is not a
is
county
in
entity.
Any of those, right?
That is a separate entity. It's not a county entity. Which, that's the whole purpose of those.
Right. Right.
Same with Friends of the Dow House. They're set up to help, help with stuff, but it's a separate entity. Yep.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to approve Chris's report.
Like that.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions?
Like I said, very well done, Chris. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Oh, I did have one question.
Yep.
You listed, I think you said that there's 5 full-time employees.
I don't know.
And I
I'll be
thought-
honest, Jody puts all the numbers together and I just read them.
2 rangers, 1 operations manager,
Hey.
1 park technician, and 5 seasonal.
That might be
3
wrong.
part-time.
There's
I
more
don't
than
know.
that. We might have overlooked that.
I mean, I just thought we
There's
have a,
2.
we have a box with them listed and the salaries that.
We may have forgot to change it in the text.
And it seems like there's
There's more than that.
Okay.
There's 2 full-timers at Yellow Smoke, there's 2 full-timers at Nelson Park, me, Jody, Kelly, so there's 7 full-time employees.
Okay, that's. Okay.
And that's how
I
they
counted
changed
with
it
7,
this
I just
fiscal
noted the
year,
document
huh?
said
Did
5.
they change this?
No, I think it was before
Was it
that.
before that?
Yeah, it was before. Tyler, I think, was the first one, so it would have been a different fiscal year.
Okay.
So I'll have to look for that. we may have just forgot to change it
Forgot to
in one
change the
spot.
wording. Okay.
So with that change.
Yeah.
Garden.
So there is no change.
Yeah, Kelly's done that.
And my
Yeah.
wife's part of that. She was completely impressed with it.
Yeah.
Very good job.
Kelly does very good program.
She does.
Call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Report. Motion carries. You, Chris, you got a state conference for Kelly.
It's an out-of-state conference, because apparently I learned we have to get supervisor approval to send Kelly out of state for a conference. It's in the handbook I bothered 3 months. But, the only reason I'm
Appreciate that.
I even wanted to do it is she won, it was in like Council Bluffs or Omaha last year and she won her registration fee, so that's $400. She volunteered to get herself out there. So it's as cheap as you're gonna get to send it, an employee to Montana.
What
for a
is the
conference.
cost?
This basically can be 4 nights in a hotel, which the base price I think was $92 a night, so you're probably looking at $115 a night. So maybe $450, $500 for the hotel, and then there'd be a few meals.
Some will be included with the conference, but obviously probably not all of them. And then obviously, 4 or 5 days of her wage. But,
Which we'd have paid anyway.
right.
I could say Montana for a nature.
It's the national conference. Like I said,
There's gonna
I'd
be a
have
lot
said
of
no
people
up front if she hadn't, even if she had won the registration and wanted me to pay for the flight, that'd have been a hard no. But since she's willing to pay for the flight, I'm like, well, if we're ever gonna do it, it's as cheap as you're gonna get.
This way she can find out if it's worth going to in the
Yeah,
future.
I'm, like I said, the national one was in Omaha, or Council Bluffs last summer.
Okay.
So she was just that one, just happened to be close, and that was also, her mom lives down there. So there was not even a hotel involved in that, so she just stayed with her mom.
I think it's great.
I think it's
I
good.
mean, and she's really put the work in over the years as well.
Yeah, and she doesn't go to a lot of conferences, so that's another reason I'm
Pay
like,
for her own
this.
flight.
Yeah,
That we
I'd be all
can
right with it.
participate on
We
our
need to
side.
vote on that.
Yeah, we do. So,
I'd make the motion to send
Motion.
Kelly out to
Second.
Montana.
second by Craig. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
All right.
go back to tell us what she all learned.
What is that? What's the dates on
Yeah,
that?
we'd love to hear.
I think it's the end of April, if I remember right.
Yeah, have her come in and give us an update.
Yeah, I will.
That would be cool.
That would be,
Just to
yeah.
kind of see what that's all about.
Yeah, we can do
what
that.
she Picked up, so.
Not a problem.
No snakes though, we're good about this.
She likes her snakes. I give her that. All
Thanks, Chris.
right, you bet. Thank you.
After my wife was there last night, she was telling her about her snake baby. She said, okay.
Terry, line of credit for Amazon.
Yeah, so we have, business Amazon for all our department heads. And it's getting utilized nicely. And currently, anybody with a county credit card has their credit card uploaded on Amazon and it's being billed through the credit card. Specifically, public health. During these last few months of the year, they experience an uptick in spending, trying to get through those grant spending specifically. And typically, we would raise their credit rate on their credit card. This would help to eliminate that. We'd open that line of credit up, and I can do it I was talking to the guy that's been helping us get that all set up, Manny, through Amazon, and I could specifically make public health, give them access to the line of credit. It can be up to, currently on our account, it does say 10,000, but nobody has access to it. We didn't sign that up because I hadn't gotten board approval, but that limit can be up to 50,000, and that is up to this board, what you would like it to be, and maybe what those specifications would be if a department head, would you like those department heads to come to you in the future to ask for that line of credit if they are perceiving a spending above the limit on their credit card? That kind of thing. And then Amazon would invoice us and we paid Amazon directly through claims, still through claims. Same requirements of receipting and that kind of stuff. That would not change for as far as the auditor's office and accounts payables requirements for payment.
I think it'd be appropriate if it was over a certain dollar amount that they just come in and give us a heads up, hey, this is what we need to spend it on and why.
Right, and then it's
Giving us a
easy for
heads
me
up,
to go
giving you a
in.
heads up.
I'm an administrator and recently I've made Sherry the second administrator. So if for some reason I'm gone and something needs to happen on the Amazon account, it can still happen.
Do you have a dollar amount in
Expeditiously.
mind?
I
That-
don't know, cause if more than one department is accessing it at a time, currently, public health has been the one that's, made it public to me that they would like to be considered for that. And I get that completely,
Do you
but
know
what do you
what
think?
on Amazon, what kind of items are purchasing or what?
I don't, I can get a report,
be
I can find
curious.
that reporting from Manny. I think, some of them were doing it in conjunction with their own personal Amazon originally, but then submitting specific claims of things they purchased for their office to the county for reimbursement. You know what I mean?
So since we have this, and it's a government thing, does it give us a cheaper price at Amazon?
It does. It does. Actually, there are some catalogs that have been created specifically for us. I know like, the sheriff's department, there are some specific things. EMA, there are some very specific things that will service those agencies. As long as the department head uses it. I know in the next month or two, Manny said he's gonna be in Iowa. So he's gonna stop in, Crawford County, and we're gonna try and plan, a buyer's session, a buyer's training. So our department heads can learn about those catalogs more specifically and learn about the purchasing power and, the discounts that are gonna be available to, and they are currently available. I just.
Business Amazon is, that's something that we've just started using?
Yeah, in the last 3 months, maybe. Yeah,
Is it office supplies, some of it?
some of it, yep, it's all, we do office supplies. I mean, and we still shop around, like we buy a lot of paper and all our departments in the courthouse utilize the paper that we buy, so. We shop around for paper prices. Paper's expensive right
Appreciate
now.
that.
There aren't many discounts in paper. But I think there are some available through Amazon Business. I mean, cause some of the things that we buy, we do not have a local link to those things.
And how long is that credit? Is that a 30-day thing? So what you're saying is that?
It would probably be 45, just so we make sure that it matches our billing cycle since we only pay claims twice a month.
Okay, and so if it's set at 10,000 and public health buys something for 8,000
Right,
today at noon.
right,
And I'm in the treasurer's office and I just wanna hit the buy button for 5,000.
right. I would recommend
Currently,
20.
We're over our limit.
Right. I would recommend 20 probably, just in case there are multiple departments utilizing
Right.
it. I don't. To me, I'm so,
still got
I'm so
things-
frugal that I feel like their credit cards primarily should be able to meet their purchasing needs for the most part. I get it, public health they go through this purchasing surge to get some of those supplies they need for the grants that are offered, whether it be small publication things or whatever, I don't even know, handout things like when they're in a parade or when they're at an event that they're handing out toothbrushes or whatever, that kind of stuff.
Probably would be a nightmare. You couldn't break it out where you have a spending limit for each office, but yet it goes back to the total bill.
I am not sure. I can find that out. I'm not, he made it sound like the county has a limit. We would set 10, 20, 30,000, up to 50,000 is the max. It's not the max. He would need his manager's approval to go above the 50,000 for our county. But
couldn't public health kind of let you know that season when they're gonna be buying extras so that?
and she already has, that's why this is on the agenda.
But they still have to stay within the budget though.
Well, yeah,
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
No, this does not change their budget and their
No,
spending
it's just how
authority with the
they're
county.
If they over their budget, then.
Oh, yeah,
it's
no.
about the
20,000
hammer.
would be a good place to start.
Hard.
I think
Since
so.
you guys monitor so closely. and
Yeah,
are
yeah.
So aware of. the
That's why I
things
was
that
just
can
wondering
happen.
I'm watching their budget, I mean, as far as for grants and stuff, but still, whether it's a tax asking out of the budget, I mean, it would be really hard for us to track that month to month.
It's still the department head's responsibility to stay within their spending authority
Okay.
of their budgets, whether they're elected or
I don't know,
appointed
I-
or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's still
But it
their
sounds like most of you would
responsibility.
be
You guys have
using
an
this
idea.
as opposed to using some other source if it's actually gonna be cheaper for us to use it.
Right, right,
That's my point. Yeah.
right. And there's free shipping so that we get
I
the
like
free shipping.
free stuff.
There's also, since it's business, a percentage of our purchases at the end of the year that we started, which I can't remember what month that was, there'll be
Cashback.
kind of,
Really? Cool.
yes.
It'd be nice to price local.
I know, yeah, we
I
always
understand.
try to spend local. But
Some things are
like
just
office
right.
supplies, you can't unless you're going to the big box store.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and so.
Is there
And then
Iowa
it's
office
delivered.
supplies still in Carroll or not? Are they-
Yeah.
Office stop
Office
is
stop,
in
yeah.
Carroll.
Okay.
There are ways for them on those catalogs to bring forward maybe Iowa businesses. that kind of
Oh.
stuff, but I don't know that there are that many. I don't know what's available that way, so.
We do have a motion from Gene to set the limit at $20,000.
20,000.
I'll second.
Second by Craig. Any further discussion?
Yep.
Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
All right.
All right.
Chair votes aye.
Awesome, thank you.
Even some of the local Walmart is not.
Exactly.
I-
Oh, I know, exactly. It's not.
They do pay taxes.
They do.
They-
But
Not Amazon, you pay local, you pay state
You
dollar.
pay, you just pay your state,
Yeah.
sales tax.
They have to pay a local on?
We don't.
We don't, right. Good point.
I think they
Local
local.
loss, you know,
Good point.
well, let's see if the state, well, that wouldn't affect them anyway, so unless they put that on everything.
Vacant lot.
you ready to, all caught up?
Yes.
Okay. Purchase a vacant lot. In our packet.
This was,
Yep.
it's just the assessment.
Assessment.
That's that.
20, what,
About 24.
26, was it? 24, 25?
24,290.
24, 290.
And he's asking. What did he say last week?
30,
Was it 30?
He said a couple years ago. he
2
got-
years ago, I think he said he already was offered to Dutch for 28.
Yeah, we more paid for it, probably.
Well, yeah, we've done all the improvements over there. Remember when that gaping hole was showing through the,
Well, the fact
Secondary
that we're
road.
going to be forced to put sidewalks in, you know, it's still gonna be a cost to us. It's not.
And if it's 14,000 to put in them sidewalks, it's gonna cost us 14,000 to put in them sidewalks.
But he's gonna up our rent if we don't buy it anyways, and he has to do it.
he ups it almost every year.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, it won't, with our secondary roads, it won't cost us 14,000.
Can they do that?
Yeah,
Secondary roads will put the sidewalk in?
we haven't asked them, I guess.
Well, I don't know. I just
I don't know.
never noticed if they did that kind of work.
Well,
I mean, they're
couple
skilled,
different
but-
things. I mean, if we had a,
Right. And we need to
Asphalt
look
company,
at
we
the
can
sidewalks,
asphalt it.
because they might just need, I mean,
And who are they
are
gonna
the
assess the
gaps that
taxes to?
big? Can they
Make the
be
city
ground
do it.
down? I mean, can they be ground and not
Like we did out
replaced?
front, you mean where we took the edges
Some
off
of
so
it.
people didn't trip? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
I do think it would be, I mean, we already paid for it, like Hal said, it would be in our best interest to
To
get it
help
purchased.
just to purchase it.
I think we should buy it.
I do
I
too.
think we should buy it, but should we negotiate the price, knowing that we're gonna have an expense,
Well, yeah.
right away, you know, that's my only thing. If it free, isn't free, rather lose.
So make an offer to his, what are his previous dollar amount?
Now, you sure it was 30?
I know it was 30, it's that right there, it said 30,000.
Okay.
I think his previous, was like
It was
28.
28.
I don't remember.
Tell him that Ty wasn't here, and he said if it was 28 before, it's 28 now.
Blame it on Jack.
That sounds like something you might
Scrooge,
say.
right? You know, since we're gonna have to do that, I was
I know.
thinking 25, but if you
I was
guys think.
thinking 20. He could
I
get
was
us
just
to
saying we
the-
were being generous if we were, you know, I mean, cause hell,
We have paid for it.
if we can get our guys to do it and it costs half as much, we're still set.
We could have our first offer be 25.
And just say that, say, we were kind
So
of.
is Dave negotiating with him?
Huh?
If
Chairman?
Hey,
Chairman?
Sure.
That's why he makes the big bucks.
you know, I'll
Give you a pay raise.
A big one.
if you give me a pay range in a public meeting, you could look back and say, oh, they're willing
We
to
should
go
be in
up
a- We
to,
should be in a closed session.
they'd be willing to go up to X. So, I mean, if, whatever you guys decide, just give me a hard number. If he says no, then I'll come
We'll
back.
let's just do what Gene and Ty said, and I'll say 25.
Offer 25, just tell him, I mean,
So
'cause
you have it all.
I think that's fair since we're gonna have to do that, cause it saves him from having to do it,
Yep.
and he's still making bank in the end.
Still getting a little more than assessed value.
Is that a motion?
Is that a
I'll
motion,
make that.
Yes.
Okay. A second.
motion and second.
So Dozark and Hayden?
Yep.
Nice suggestion.
What's that?
At the end of the day, we
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got
Pave it.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
All right,
Chair votes aye. I will reach out to him today.
Okay.
Text you guys back his answer.
In four.
I mean, he's getting assessed value and he doesn't have to pay for the improvements.
Right.
There you go. All right,
Anything else, citizens input?
Everybody's left. It must have got boring.
Gordon's on there.
Peggy's still there.
Bring it back.
Again,
It's
Lord.
county road. I think Crawford County was supposed to have 58 or 56.
Yeah, that's quite a
I was that first study. I thought that was one of my-
That's why all the more important to tax them at a fair rate than what it is currently.
Correct.
good to have
We've
it.
discussed that. I agree, 100%. Anyway, anybody? Nobody?
Nope.
Nope.
All right.
Motion to
I
adjourn.
move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Nice to
are
see you.
adjourned.
Everybody
All right.
going down to Now City?
I don't.
Anybody going to corn growers tonight?
We got another meeting.
Was that an employee thing in the packet? Like Kyle Sigabart thing, was that in the packet?
See the packet since I got a little bit.
I didn't see it.
I didn't see it.
It wasn't, it's not,
All gonna
it's
bring
not
it
in
up.
there. Just asking if someone
I did not see
laid
it.
it at their desk.
No, I don't see it.
No, and usually that's me and I don't have it.
That was just a.
Okay, guess it wasn't in there.
Then we
Shut that off.